What's up, players? Welcome to episode number 69, of Ready Press
Nice.
Play. Your weekly source for everything that's new and exciting in the world of video games. Every Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we discuss the top news of the week, notable releases on all platforms, what we're playing, big topics of the industry, and the games we love. If you want to write anything to be read on the show, go to ReadyPlayNetwork.com or just hit us up at Ready Press Play on Twitter or TikTok. No matter where you found us, please subscribe to the feed so you can get every new show directly to your device as soon as it posts. And if you like it, please leave us a nice review. This is May 7th, 2021, and I'm your host, Louis Menchaca, and I'm joined today by my co-host. Is it that way? Mr. Dan Lima. I don't even know.
I don't know. You're the one that...
You know what? It's there you go, that way. It's because the thing is, it's really weird because sometimes my camera be inverted, so sometimes like this is my left, and then whatever.
Okay. At least are you one of those people that can tell left from right, or do you know where left is and where right is?
Oh no, I know where left is. I'm left-handed, but the thing is like.
Okay. At least you got it. You're left-handed, Louis. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the thing is like it's because like Discord is really. I mean Discord. My OBS is really weird because sometimes I have my camera angle inverted and sometimes it's not. So. Yeah.
Cool,
But anyways.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to be here. Glad to we have a packed show today. Plenty of interesting stuff to be talking about. Some interesting special topic of the show as well coming up. Lewis's idea. I approve of it. Excited for it. And yeah, just excited to do another one of these.
Yeah, so just as a separate side note, because we're doing episode 69 of the podcast, I decided to wear a very, very explicit ass shirt. So here we go.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even tell what it was. Oh, oh my God! Let me. I want you inside me. Where did you find that? Okay, so for those listening at home, Louis has a Kirby shirt that at first glance looks very innocent, but then it says, "I want you inside me," which I just realized I'm not wearing, by the way, but yeah, I had to squint a little bit and increase your window in my computer to be able to read that. But where would you find that?
I was at a convention. I think it was at SGC back when Screw Attack was their own convention before they got shoved into a closet at RTX. But yeah. Cool. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, look, Dan. Pleasantries aside, we don't have time for that. We have too much show. We have too much show to get through. So let's just go ahead and try to speed run so many topics. All right, let's
do it.
Yes. All right. First up is Temple of Time. All right, so for Temple of Time, it's the beginning of the month. We do this every month where we talk about the anniversaries of all the months or for all the years for 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. A lot of video game news that we got to cover and so many releases. So let's go ahead and first start things off with the 5-year anniversary. So with 5 years, we have May of 2016. This is the big news story that happened. It was Avalanche Software shut down. They were shut down by Disney. Disney Infinity just crumbled. And and then Disney was no longer making their own video games and that they were going to license to third parties. That's how we got Marvel's The Avengers, etc., and all that stuff. I don't know, man. I feel like making first party or making it in-house is better than licensing it out. I mean, granted, so there's give and takes, but I think really you're better off doing both. But whatever. Anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like the strategy has worked for Disney since then, right? I would go. I can't think of on the top of my head of all. Well, Disney owns everything now, so if you think of all the Star Wars games and all of the Marvel related games and stuff that came out, I would go as far as to say that their success rate and the quality of the titles has probably increased since they decided to go that route. But I could be wrong. I could be generalizing. I don't know. I will say that I remember when that happened, and I have a particular level of insight in this because Heavy Iron Studios, which is the studio I used to work for before, and one in which I interned actually all the way back in 2013, they were one of the co-devs partners working on Disney Infinity, and that studio in general actually has had a history of working with Disney and all sorts of stuff. So they worked on a lot of Disney Pixar tie-in games back in the day. And I remember it was so crazy to see that Disney Infinity was like this big hit. And then they shortly after did Disney Infinity 2, and then they did Disney Infinity 3. And to me, looking from an outside perspective at that point, because I was there when they were making, I think, the first Infinity, but then they kept just working on it for the next few years. From an outside perspective, to me, it looked like things were going well. Like, these games are big, they're selling a lot. Otherwise, why would they keep making them? And then suddenly it was almost like it was like a bubble that popped or something. And I think that that's kind of what was happening with the whole Toys to Life thing at that point.
Yeah,
Very, very few of those have actually survived to today. I mean, the Amiibo have survived, but they've kind of taken another form now, right? Like, I feel like Nintendo is no longer really focused on the in-game
yeah,
tie-ins anymore, and
just the figures
they're just
themselves. Yeah,
they're just kind of putting them out as figures, and I don't think that's going to keep going for much longer either. I think they're gonna finish the Smash line, and then they're probably gonna have a few special ones here and there, and that's probably gonna be it.
true. Yeah, what's it called? All those Disney Infinity figures, man, they're like really really cheap at a used game store. By the way.
Yeah,
Next up, we got Battleborn, the flop that is Battleborn.
that was Gearbox's, right?
I,
Gearbox's
was that Randy Pitchford?
hero. Yes.
Ah,
Yeah, the hero shooter, they were kind of going after I mean, I was going to
trends.
compare it to Overwatch, but Overwatch happened this year as well. Overwatch was also 2016, but yeah, I feel like it was one of those things where maybe they came out like too close to Overwatch, and Overwatch just kind of ate out the oxygen for that genre. And so yeah, Battleborn was just one of those, just like what's the other one? Paragon also, had a similar fate. I think Radical Heights, I don't even know if that one actually came out. But yeah, I remember what was going on at that time frame. It was like before the battle royales were a thing and dominated the world. It was the hero shooters and the shared
MOBAs.
world experiences and MOBAs and all that stuff, right? So
Yeah. Next up is Super Hot. It came out on the Xbox One. Surprisingly, I didn't know that that was when it released. I thought it was a PSVR title, like or whatever. But there it is.
mhm.
Next up is a pair of Uncharted games. Uncharted Fortune Hunter came out for the iOS and Android. Completely forgot that that even existed, by the way.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Is that like a gotcha game or something?
I don't know.
It
They
sounds
released
like
it.
it.
They released it in tandem with Uncharted at Thief's End for the PS4. So
Hmm.
there you go. Next up is the 2016 Doom, and then there was
Damn, this was a good year.
yes, it was Homefront: The
Oh.
Revolution, and then finally a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutants in Manhattan. I think it
Not
might be
just a good
the
year, but
go for it.
I was gonna say a good month in the year. Well, Uncharted 4 is what I remember most about that game is just how visually impressive it was at the time. It felt like we had never seen a game that pretty. Even back in the trailers, I remember seeing like the first few trailers for Uncharted 4, and that was what next gen was. You know what I mean? Like that was our perspective on next gen at that point. It was like because the first year of the new consoles, we got like um it was like Dragon Age Inquisition and what's the other game? Shadow of Mordor, and then we got a little bit after we got like Witcher 3. But at least to me at the time, I remember that those games didn't particularly feel that next gen yet. And it
Mm.
was when we saw the trailer for Uncharted 4 that we were like, oh shit, that I remember I looked at Uncharted 4 as like that's gonna be the first true like impressive next gen game. Taking the most out of the console. Um, at least that was my perspective at the time. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I like the Madagascar level. It was really dope as fuck. I just remember it
Hmm.
being like this beautiful vista and stuff like that. It was a lot of I remember like those like slow motion shots where like you sort of have to like pause and like do the camera mode and rotate and see like the mud on his pants and all that the textures and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's some next level ish, and it's just too bad that I think it's really hard to top Uncharted 2 and 3. It's like You know, you have to basically do the same action sequences that you've done before instead of like creating brand new ones, which is hard to do. I don't even know what you could have done, to tell you the truth, because they did everything. They did planes, they did horseback riding, they did, you know, cars and swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I don't know what the deal is with Uncharted 4, but I just find it a little bit forgettable compared to the other ones. Like I for some reason I just don't remember that game that well. And it might be like, the time frame that I played at, the mind space I was at. I don't know. I think the game was doing a lot of cool things. There are a lot of references to the previous Uncharted games, and I think they tied the bow nicely at the end and all that stuff. But overall, I really don't remember that game that well. I remember the beginning and the end, and not really anything in the middle.
true.
But
All right. Next up, 10 years. We're gonna talk about May of 2011. And that's for kick things off here with MotorStorm Apocalypse for the PS3, Thor God of Thunder for the Xbox 360, PS3, Wii, and Nintendo DS. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I hated, by the way, when those DS games were like clearly not the same game and stuff like that. There's gonna be a worse
yeah,
version of this later on.
okay, let's keep going then.
Lego Pirates of the Caribbean, the video game, came out on the 3DS, the Xbox 360, the PS3, the Wii, the PSP, and the DS. And then MX versus ATV Alive for the Xbox 360 and PS3. Surprisingly, I didn't even know this, but Terraria turns 10 years old. I thought it was a little.
I didn't think this was that old.
Yeah, it originally came out on the PC, and then like in 2013, it came out to like consoles and stuff like that. So, also turning 10 years old is LA Noir for the PS3 and 360. Then we got The Witcher 2. The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings on PC. And then Dead or Alive Dimensions for the 3DS, Dirt 3 for the PC, 360, and PS3. And finally, rounding it out, is Kung Fu Panda 2 for the PS3, Xbox 360, Wii, and the DS.
This was such an interesting era of gaming. This and a few years before that, we saw a lot more licensed games coming out to consoles, which we don't see as much of anymore. I feel like you also had, these games that would come out in all the platforms available, even if it didn't necessarily make sense. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it's just funny to think of like these games that were coming out on PS3 and Xbox 360 that had like the best hardware at the time, but then also the Wii, which had worse hardware, but then also the PSP and the DS. And these games existed across all these different platforms somehow. And I remember that was not that uncommon of a thing for you to see with some of these, especially with some of these licensed games. They just wanted to get everybody. And I never really played a lot of those, honestly. So I don't relate to a lot of the games here. I will say a few things. I remember when The Witcher 2 came out, and I know that The Witcher 3 kind of the Witcher franchise blew up for the rest of the world, especially the console world, with The Witcher 3. But I was around a lot of people that were into The Witcher 2 when that came out. I remember hearing about that game a lot. And I remember the main thing I remember is that people were so into the fact that the game had like this branching path where relatively early in the game you had to make a decision, and depending on your decision, there were two completely different games that you could end up playing. Like there was this whole narrative path, and then there's this whole other narrative path. So the idea is you had to play the game twice to kind of experience both paths. Then Dead or Alive Dimensions, never played that, but that reminds me of the early days of the 3DS, where really there wasn't a lot else going on, and there was just like these weird like 3D ports of other games and 3D versions of other games and stuff. And shout out to LA Noir, because despite the fact that I never beat that game, I did spend some time with it, and I think that game is not necessarily underrated, but definitely underplayed. Probably like that. Not it doesn't really get talked about much. And I thought it had a lot of good things going for it, and good tech as well.
Yeah, LA Noire, surprisingly, it's still being sold by Rockstar, like straight up. It's been ported to the PS4 and the Switch and everything like that. It's just a game that sort of, I feel like it stood the test of time as far as like, consistently
Yeah.
feeling relevant, I would say. So, congrats to them on that one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And this is the part where there's a worse example of it, but 15 years ago brings us to May of 2006. So starting things off, we got NBA Ballers Rebound for the PSP, Rise of Nations, Rise of Legends for the PC. Now, what kind of title? It's like they couldn't even like decide on which title they wanted, so they put both of them in there. Rise of
Yeah,
Nations, Rise of
that's funny.
Legends. But I would say the big headliner would be New Super Mario Brothers for the DS. Now, this is the one that really got me going right
Shout
here.
out.
This is the one that got me
Yeah.
going as far as like the worst example of it. X-Men: The Official Game, which is it's got Hugh Jackman on the cover, and it takes place between X2 and X3. So like it's an official tie-in
Hmm,
game that bridges the gap between the two movies. And
that's interesting.
it came out on PC, PS2, Xbox, the GameCube, the 360, the DS, and the Game Boy Advance. Like,
That's awesome.
what the hell?
But you know what, Lewis? There's also something about that particular year, and maybe you could say the same about 2007. That was it's like such a transitional year. You know, it's kind of like it's almost kind of like 2020, really. Like 2020, 2021. I'm sure in the future we might look back at that in similar ways too. But because these transitional years in between generations, that was like that was the end of the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, but then the 360 was already out, the Wii and the PS3 were in the horizon, about to come out in a few months.
Hmm.
I bet this game might have been ported later to some of those as well. And then you also had, I think the DS was like a new console
It
at
was
that
a
time, but the
third
GBA
pillar.
was still
Yeah.
relevant.
It's supposed to be the
Yeah.
third pillar. I remember that. And so it's really weird. It's like, okay, first off, I read the Wikipedia on X-Men the official game, and apparently like Hugh Jackman and a bunch of other movie actors actually voiced their characters for the game. And so what's really weird is like you're not going to get that voice acting on a Game Boy Advance. I could tell you that much. So it's like it's really weird that the Game Boy Advance box art is the same as as all the other consoles like box
Mhm.
art, and it feels like a lie, you know. But yeah,
Well, who knows? Maybe they were able to get like a close enough experience to the game, but I don't know, man. I kind of like that. There's something that I find cool about it, like this idea that this game can come out and exist in all these different platforms, and you play a slightly different version of the game in each different platform. You know what I mean?
seven
Um,
seven platforms released at the same time.
and you know what? You know what? At that time, they were not bitching about it. About having to put their game on all these different platforms, and it was harder. I'm speaking a little bit out of my ass here. I know I'm a developer, but that doesn't mean I know everything about everything. There's a lot that I don't know actually, but I know. I think it's safe to say that it was harder to port a game at the time to PC, PS2, Xbox, GameCube, 360, GBA, and DS than it would be now when we have engines that were built to, package your games to all these different platforms. If you're making your game in Unreal is already set up to get your game
On
packaged and
phones,
released
yeah.
for all these different platforms, right? So there's still a lot of challenges with it, but it's like it's easier now than it was then, where you were working with all these different APIs and etc. So um props to them to being able to pull that off, I guess.
Yeah, and Unreal is like you can play it on mobile and like iOS and
Yeah.
Switch and all this other stuff. Like so many, it scales. Yeah, you're right. Next up, we got the Da Vinci Code, which is a tie-in game. Yeah, you know that because the. By the
Mhm.
way, I want to say that I did a similar segment on the Ready Play movies, and so I remember I like reading the Da Vinci Code and like Shrek, coming
Mhm.
out in theaters and stuff at the same time. So it's kind of funny, doing the segment again like the same week, and it's like talking about the same movies, the same games.
We're probably gonna have a Shrek game coming up here in a few months, maybe if it's not in this month yet, which doesn't look like it is.
It's in the next
Because I
one.
think that got
Yeah,
yeah, that
it's in
got tie-in games as well.
Yeah, it's in the next
Yeah.
one. So we got the Da Vinci Code came out on PC, PS2, and Xbox. Jaws Unleashed came out on PS2 and Xbox. Monster Hunter Freedom came out on the PSP. Now the all-time classic game Rockstar Games presents Table Tennis came out on the 360. And that's 15 years old. And then rounding it out is Hitman Blood Money came out on PC, PS2, Xbox, and 360. And then also, surprisingly, I thought this was an X-Men game, but X2, The Threat, came out on Linux. And apparently,
Interesting.
it's a space simulator game. It just happens to look like X2, like X-Men 2, whatever.
You know, Louis, I have a very small anecdote about the table tennis, Rockstar's table tennis. I never played that game. I didn't even know it existed until much later. But in 2013, I had the opportunity to interview for a job with Rockstar San Diego, and I looked up, I always do my research and before an interview with a company. And when I was in the phone with them, usually sometimes the first kind of contact you have with the recruiter, they're telling you about the company and stuff, and they might ask a few questions about general stuff about you. But I remember it came up like they were talking about the games that they had developed, and me trying to be a smartass and having done my research when I was obviously much younger. I was like, "Oh, don't forget about the table tennis game," in the on the phone with them, and they were like, "Yep, yeah, that's right. We did that too." Just a crazy, it's such a crazy trivia fact that Rockstar developed a table tennis game randomly. Among in between GTA's, they and Red Dead Redemption later and stuff like that. They made a table
I
tennis
could have
game.
sworn that they
Anyway,
basically made it like the best table tennis to ever table tennis, is my understanding.
I think it's a good game. Yeah, as far as I understand.
Yeah, so now we're gonna pivot over to 20 years, and this takes us back to May of 2001. Um, so first off, I got like a couple of news stories here for you. Sega announced that it will no longer develop home consoles to focus on game development. The Dreamcast is discontinued in May, but games including Sonic the Hedgehog will continue to be released. And then next up, Activision acquired Treyarch. And then finally, longtime arcade developer Midway Games announced it was no longer going to manufacture arcade games. Midway Games was like the owners of Mortal Kombat before, like, it became like this own NetherRealm Studios thing. So, yeah, that's those are the news stories. As far as releases go, I would say the big headliner was probably going to be Mario Party 3 for the Nintendo 64. It's like this is late in the N64 life cycle. The GameCube was about to release later that year, and a lot of late N64 games didn't have high print runs. Next up, Crazy Taxi got ported to the PS2 because of the aforementioned news about the Dreamcast being discontinued. Project Justice, which I hear is a very like a gem, like a hidden gem for the Dreamcast, got released. Atlantis: The Lost Empire Trial by Fire came out on the PC, and that's a tie-in game for a movie, an animated movie. Red Faction came out on the PS2, and then later that month, because Crazy Taxi came out on the PS2, I guess they were using that as an advertisement because Crazy Taxi 2 came out on the Dreamcast. And finally, rounding it out is Shrek Fairy Tale Freakdown, which is the tie-in game of all things. You decided to make it for the Game Boy Color, not even for consoles,
Interesting.
but they made a tie-in game for the Game Boy Color. I guess it's because it's targeting kids or whatever, but whatever. And then also Spider-Man 2: The Sinister Six came out on the Game Boy Color. What a time, Dan. Anything to say about this?
Um, don't really have much to say about any of those games actually. I mean, it's interesting to think that it's been a full 20 years since Sega left the console market effectively, right? Like I would be willing to say that a significant percentage of gamers right now never saw a Sega console, right? It's like even I like never really played much of a Sega console actually. Um, I had, either Nintendo or Sony consoles growing up and stuff. And, now now that I think about the timeline, that makes sense. I mean, Sega was done with consoles by the time I was 5. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I don't really have much to say either beyond what I've already stated. Um, I haven't really played much of Mario Party 3 because the one I played the most was Mario Party 2, even though I own 3. Um, but yeah, again, I think we talked about Red Faction before on a previous Temple of Time, so I know that's a series. But
Yeah.
all right, let's go ahead and move on to May of 1996, and this is the shortest one because it actually fit in one line on our doc. So Metal Slug came out for the arcades in April of 1996, but like literally the end of April, and in the beginning of May, it came out for the Neo Geo. So that was essentially the dawn of the Metal Slug, excuse me, the Metal Slug series. And next was I guess this experimental game that id Software decided to make. It's called Final Doom. It came out for MS DOS. And finally, Nintendo decided to make some Kirby game called Kirby's Block Ball for the Game Boy, the regular Game Boy. not the color. But yeah, that's it. Just three titles. That's very very
Yep.
slim pickings there. But I guess it's May. It's not really like one of those seasons to be releasing stuff, I would say. But whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing to say there beyond that. So let's go ahead and move on to May of 1991. That's 30 years ago. And it says here there were no new releases of games except for this one random tidbit I was able to find and dig up. It says here that Sierra Online releases the Sierra Network, which is also credited as the first graphical MMORPG due to its inclusion of the Shadow of Eusebius. The Sierra Network would later become its more memorable name, Imagination Network, after a total buyout from AT&T in 1994. Don't know any about any of this. I never heard of the Imagination Network. I never heard of any of this, but there goes some history for
So
you.
yeah, because of how young I am, I don't have a lot of attachment to any of the Sierra games, but I know that they were pioneers and precursors on a lot of stuff. So that makes sense.
Okay. Oh, damn. Now, I guess, congrats. I didn't even know. Um,
Huh?
Now, before either of us were even thought of, 35 years ago, May of 1986, I found a Japanese release. Nothing came out in America, but before Square and Enix merged to become Square Enix, it was just Enix. So Enix releases Dragon Quest for the Famicom in Japan, which is usually considered the foremost Japanese role-playing video game, and is the very first in the series that has been phenomenally successful in Japan. So congratulations, Dragon Quest! You're now 35 years old.
And still a relevant series. It's still a relevant series, putting out new games that are getting positive critical acclaim and good sales. Like Dragon Quest 11 is to a lot of people one of the best JRPGs out there. So shout out to that. Not a lot of franchises can hit that, right? It's some of the older Nintendo franchises and some others, but there's not that many of them.
All right. And 40 years ago, no news stories, no releases happened in May of 1981. But near the dawn of gaming in May of 1976, that's 45 years ago, it says here that Atari releases Breakout, whose
Hell yeah.
prototype was designed by Apple co founder Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak to video arcades. And we know about Breakout, by the way. Like if you used to have like a BlackBerry, it used to come with a
Yeah.
brick breaker, and and so it's like it's literally that. It's like it's
Yeah, that's awesome. This game has had like a lot of different like iterations, and there's
names. Yeah.
Arkanoid as well, and it's in names, and it's kind of like like your old like Snake game on the phone, or even something like Tetris, right? It's just like this iconic game that can, I don't know, that I feel like everybody has played in some way in some version, unless maybe you're a Gen Z or something. But at least people our age, I'm sure everybody has experienced, and it's a great formula of a game that just is fun as hell, easy to pick up, hard to master, and it surprises me that we don't see more of those today. I feel like it
Yeah.
would be fun to see more modernized breakout games with new mechanics and stuff.
Yeah, I wonder like how they did it. All the other breakout clones have not been able to like. I don't know. It just seems really weird because it's like it's the same mechanic and stuff like that. Is there like any trademark kind of situations where like you can't like imagine like somebody making Tetris but not calling it Tetris. That's kind of what it feels like to me when you make Breakout
Right,
but don't call it Breakout. You know what I mean?
right. I think it would be cool. I mean, they probably own the rights to the name, right? But I think it would be cool if somebody did like the Tetris effect treatment to Breakout, and we had like a Breakout effect that hey, was you could play it in VR and it had awesome music and graphics and etc. And it was just Breakout.
Yes. Damn, I can't believe it's 45 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our game impressions. Yeah, not a whole lot to talk about here. I guess since we have so much show here, let's just make it quick here because I only got two things to talk about. Number one, shameless plug, twitch.tv/ReadyPressPlay. Go watch us play It Takes Two. We're getting closer to the end game, I would say. I think we're like, what, I think 2 streams away from finishing the game. Not this next stream, but the stream
Probably.
after that. I
Yeah.
would say we're gonna finish. Um, it's definitely a delight. I don't know. There's the. I'm just gonna say really quickly. I don't know if the game was wearing off on me or whatever, or like or it just the story took a turn for the worse and made these characters like despicable. But yeah, there's I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like it's all in good fun. I know why you're saying that, but I feel like I like the sense of humor of the game, and the way that it's kind of playing around with us. I will say that I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to say
Spoilers, yeah.
something that I'm going to regret later or even spoil anything. I will say that because the game keeps going, I feel like maybe the magic is starting to wear off a little bit, but I feel like it's going to come back. I feel like it's all about just getting into the next section and getting the new set of mechanics and seeing how that
True.
gets implemented, right? But there is something to be said about the sweet spot of like the 6 hours of a way out, right? Which I'm pretty sure we're already past that with this
Yeah.
game.
Well, I think we're 8 hours in
Um,
already. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe would have benefited for being a little bit more like consolidated. I don't know, like, but I'm having a blast so far, dude. I like this game a lot, and I think it's gonna be I think it's for sure gonna be on the short list for a game of the year for me, especially when I typically only play like a handful of new games every year.
Okay. All right. Next up is a game that I'm reviewing for Level One Gaming, and I haven't put a review out just yet because I don't like to review a game without finishing it.
Oh, we're gonna get into that.
I'm just kidding. But I'm not under embargo or anything like that to talk about it. Apparently, I think it's already out, so there's no due date. I was originally planning on having the review out this past Tuesday, but I haven't had a time. I haven't really had time to sit down and play it.
Now let me guess. Is this a visual novel?
No, no.
Okay.
It's a Japanese as fuck fighting game, like an anime fighting
Oh,
game.
okay. And what's the name of the game?
It's called Touhou Hyouibana, Antinomy of Common Flowers.
Okay.
That just markets itself, really, if you think about it. Like, that's such a weird
Yup.
name. Like,
Yeah,
it's.
I don't.
But I had to look up the definition of antinomy. It's apparently it means like it essentially means like a paradox. It means what is that word I'm looking for? Like an oxymoron kind of thing, where
Mm,
antinomy is like is whenever you have two conclusions. Like if you reached a conclusion here and a conclusion here, and they're both logically sound, but the conclusions they're at opposite ends of each other. So if you reach two
mhm.
conclusions that don't gel with each other, that's an antinomy. So,
Interesting. Okay.
uh, so yeah, that's really weird. A really weird thing to like name your game, I would say. The game also doesn't make a good first impression. Now, I also got to take this with a grain of salt. This is not a review right now. My review is forthcoming. I've only played this game for 30 minutes, so I've only had like very limited exposure to the game. But I'm not really liking it for the most part. There's a cool mechanic that they're doing where you can like swap between two characters. So like when you're fighting somebody, you can sort of like just like with a snap of a finger, you can just sort of transform into the other character and have a different move set. So you share one health bar together, but you can like sort of just phase shift and like kind of like when you press down B for like Pyra and Mithra for Smash Brothers,
Mm,
I would say. Um, so that being said, the fighting is very simple. Like it's a bunch of one button moves. So like you press one button and you do a projectile, and then it's sort of like instead of doing like quarter circle forward and like doing some command inputs, you're either just pressing like the button or you're just pressing forward and the button. Kind of like Smash Brothers. It's kind of like trying to be very easy and very simplistic. I'm not really feeling it because they're trying to do like they're trying to be like Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom with like their flying around mechanics and stuff like that, but they're also trying to be Smash Brothers with the simplicity, like dive kick kind of thing, and it's just kind of I don't know. It doesn't really gel well for me. I feel like there's no like a competitive meta for me. Like at least not from what I'm looking for in a fighting game. But otherwise, I mean, it could be very casual, but it seems very weird because it doesn't seem to be doing a very good job of sort of like bringing you in because the first thing I decided to do was start the story campaign, and then the story campaign itself kind of just seems like it's in the middle of a story. You just sort of it doesn't really like set up the world or anything like that. And on top of that, it's I don't know how I feel about like seeing this as a criticism, but it feels very cheap. Like there's no voice acting, there's no cut. Well, the cutscenes it's just very text based like kind of stuff, and you're supposed to be reading it, and it doesn't feel very engaging to sort of read it in my head with no voice acting, sort of like giving me like a feel for what these characters are supposed to sound like or be like. So yeah,
Quick questions: is this an indie game of some kind, or is this developed by a developer of fighting games that has made other fighting games, or is this like a new team's first attempt at making a fighting game? Do you know anything about that, or no?
no, I don't know. I usually get press kits whenever I get a code, but I didn't get a press kit for it. I just got sent the code, and so I would have to like review and like look up the developer myself here. And I'll probably I will do my homework, of course, when I write a review because I would need to know that. But just again, like this is just me purely like playing the game and jumping into it for like 30 minutes. And again, I'm like naturally inclined. New players are going to be naturally inclined to go to the story, and that's like things like Injustice and like they do a good job of like getting you in and getting you acclimated. Like, and if you think about Injustice and Mortal Kombat, like those NetherRealm studios have dope ass stories, and on top of that, each of their first chapter, like chapter ones, are good tutorials of like getting you into the mechanics and learning like the very basic fighting stuff, and then like it gets difficulty scales as you go into the story. So, I don't know, it just we'll see, we'll see.
Fair enough.
All right, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the battle bus. I hate my phone. I just want to say that. All right. So for the battle bus, there's three things I wanted to bring up. Number one, there's a brand new Batman skin in Fortnite. It is. I've always wanted Batman, but it's not. It's not the Batman I wanted. They're not bringing back those like Christopher Nolan Batman or whatever in there like they did before. But it looks like he kind of looks like the Ben Affleck Batman from the Snyder Cut, where they're in the future and like things are like gone to shit. So he looks like Nightfall Batman. They call him 0 Point Batman is what they call him here, and yeah, I went ahead and bought him with my V-Bucks that I had, and he's dope as hell, and there's apparently some kind of like comic book crossover. Apparently, you can buy the comic book, and there's like a code that you can use to put into Fortnite and get some digital items or something like that. I,
Hmm.
yeah, it says here
Interesting.
each print issue of Batman Fortnite 0 Point will include a redeemable code for a bonus DC themed Fortnite digital items inspired by the events in the comic, starting with the new Rebirth Harley Quinn outfit. As an additional reward, any player who redeems all 6 codes from each comic book issues will unlock a new armored Batman Zero outfit. So that's pretty cool. Uh, I guess Fortnite and comics is basically crossed over, and they're like incentivizing you to buy these comics so you can get some Fortnite's swag. So what do you
Yeah,
think?
the truth is, I feel like everybody wants in with Fortnite, right? Like the Epic is just making so much money with this game. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on with the news story that everybody wants a little piece of the pie, and I feel like all these partnerships that we keep seeing, it's not just Epic, bringing these characters and these franchises to so that they can sell more skins and also make more money, but it's also all these other companies wanting to make money off of it too. Wanting to sell their comic book, wanting to make the cut they probably make in these skin sales and etc. So we're just probably going to continue to see that until some other game dethrones Fortnite and takes its place.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. And then picking up on the next story is there's apparently there was some shenanigans what happened where there's like the lawsuits that's going on, and so some dirty laundry has been like sort of leaked and stuff. We'll talk about it more some later in the news, but just for as far as the battle bus goes, Epic Games had some plans for including Samus as well as other skins like the Rock. This is all through like the internal document stuff that has been going on. It says here Samus, Naruto, Katniss from the Hunger Games, the Bride from Kill Bill, Snake from Metal Gear Solid, and John McClane from the Die Hard. These are stuff that they were like looking into or seeing if they can get the license to make a skin for it. I'm more concerned about Samus because like that means like whenever this goes to show that whenever Kratos and Master Chief got dropped like within a week or two of each other, this goes to show that they were originally planning on doing a trifecta where it's like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. Because if Epic was able to somehow pull off the Samus deal, and boom, everyone would have been happy and stuff, and then Nintendo wouldn't have felt left out. If anything, like I would say that would have been beneficial to Epic as well because we saw like the pie chart and we saw how little market share or revenue split that Nintendo's bringing to the table. If they managed to pull that off, I bet you Nintendo fans would have been like buying this on their Switch or whatever. So
Yeah. My guess is Nintendo was the one that didn't want to make that happen. But I just have a quick correction here. The Snake character is not Snake from Metal Gear Solid.
Escape from LA.
If you look up that name, yeah, it's from some movie series. I'm actually not familiar with that.
I'm familiar with it. Snake Plissken. That's Escape. That's Kurt Russell from these movies called Escape from New York and Escape from L.A. They were from like the 80s. I think maybe even the 90s as well. It's like the two movies. But yeah. Anyways.
So this list is cool. Let's just unpack it for a second. So
Okay.
Samus would have been awesome, but obviously, Nintendo can be kind of picky with some of the stuff. So I'm guessing they were probably the ones that didn't want it. Naruto is nuts. Like that would have been really cool. I almost like that more than Samus, but at the same time, like Naruto holding a gun, that would be weird. And yeah, that's weird that didn't happen. I honestly too, like nowadays it would make more sense for them to do Boruto instead. Since that's the show that's ongoing and Naruto, the character itself, is like an adult in that show. And I'm sure the kids nowadays, if they're attached to any of these characters, they're probably more attached to Boruto instead. Katniss from Hunger Games. I wonder why that one didn't happen. Because that one makes a lot of that one is one that I feel like I can't see what the impediment would be. And it would have made perfect sense alongside, Aloy and Lara Croft and all these other characters. That would have been great.
Bow and arrows and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And the bride from Kill Bill, that would have been cool too.
Yeah. Basically anything and everything is possible. So, what's kind of I would say more likely is that at some point maybe all of these comes to Fortnite, minus Samus or whatever. But
we'll see.
And with also with the anime skins that were happening in Fortnite with the cell shading, Naruto can totally easily fit in.
That's true.
All right. My last thing that I wanted to cover on the battle bus is I think I talked about it last week how I just spent $80 and got like 13,000 V-Bucks. And by the time I reported myself and outed myself, I was down to like 5,000 V-Bucks. And now, 1 week later, I'm out of V-Bucks. I got like 400 or 500 V-Bucks left in my account, which is really nothing, really. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do because today's May 6th, the day of recording, and I have like 25 more days left in the month of May. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, am I going to will myself and just like let like a dope ass skin? Like, let's say Hawkeye just drops in the store and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know.
The funny thing, Louis, is that so when people were getting really into collecting amiibo, which I think you did as well, and I'm pretty sure are you the friend I have that has all the amiibo, or at least all the Smash Brothers ones?
Yes.
That is correct, right? Okay, so something that I heard people talk about, some of the people that were collecting amiibos, is like they were questioning themselves, like they were buying it for the collection, but they were like, I don't even care about this character. Why am I even buying it? And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, certain people can get into the collection mentality and then they just want to have everything. It's not about having the ones they like. It's about having everything. And I feel like you got to be a little careful. And I'm just kind of putting this out there in a serious manner so that you think about it in your head. Like, are you buying these skins because you actually really like the skins? Or is it a matter just that you feel like you got to have, for instance, with Marvel, right? Like, do you really like all these heroes, or do you feel like you got to have all of them? Like, you got to have all the Marvel heroes.
I can 100%
you know what I mean?
vouch that it was more of to have a complete set versus any one of them. Like, for instance, I didn't care about like Domino or whatever, but I got her because she's a Marvel character, or part of like X Force.
Exactly, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, because like to me, like there's how many? I mean, they probably had like I don't know, like 50 different Marvel characters on Fortnite already. Like to me, there's only like 4 or 5 that I would consider like like actually like really cool characters to get. Like I don't even consider Hawkeye that. I mean, Hawkeye. Everybody makes some fun of him for being the Avenger that nobody cares about. Like you know what I mean? But just the fact that that would be something you consider like a hype skin to me shows that like it's less about the characters themselves and it's more about the collection aspect. So just
Yeah,
want to leave that out there.
you're right. You're right. I like having a complete set, but
Mhm.
yeah, you know what? Shut up, Dan. You know what? You know what? You know what's gonna happen? You're gonna get all jealous whenever we do eventually play Fortnite, and I'm like showing you all of my skins and my little Rolodex.
I don't know, man. I'm not like that. I mean I understand your point, and I'll probably buy a skin eventually. I still have not bought a single one, but um, I don't know. I'm not like that. But yeah, I get it.
All right. Let's go ahead and I'll keep you guys posted about whether or not I crack or not. But I'll try to will myself. Let's go ahead and move on to the news. So for the news, we got 5 items on the list here. First up is a bit of an opinion piece, and so there was a guy. His name is Mike Diver. He goes by Mike D on Twitter, and he's got a bit of a hot take that basically lit the internet on fire. And it reads, "Remember that you don't need to be good at games to write about them, or stream them, or even make them. You don't need to finish a game to review it, to publish an opinion and score. Most of the time, we don't get that time. Whenever I see the usual suspects use these points to attack, as reasons to attack individuals, it shows how little they know about the industry they're supposedly champions of. It's pure pandering, grifting to an audience of hatred, so far from meaningful commentary and criticism. See this? It's Fantasyland stuff. Countless devs can make their own games to a standard these folks will deem talented. A review is an experience. It is not a guide, a walkthrough, or a product description. Nor is it a bizarre flex of prowess. This stance is drivel." And it says here on the screenshot, "I only judge these people because being talented in games is a must if one is going to make a career out of reviewing slash playing games like this." So yeah, that was his little Twitter thread here. I believe there was more to it than this, but let me see if I can find it. And it says here, it's the same bizarro logic that says all football pundits and writers must be internationals, otherwise their opinions are worthless. I don't know what that means, but with that being said, Dan, there's this is bit of a yeah, this is a bit of a can of worms. So, what is your first original initial gut reaction to this?
All right. So first thing I want to say is that it's kind of funny to say in the beginning when you open, and this is not me calling you out. I just want to make a point. Oh, like and this blow up and set the world on fire or whatever. I don't remember your exact quoting. And then you look at the actual amount of interactions on the tweet, and the tweet has like under 500 comments and like 700 retweets. So it's like altogether there's like at most like 2,000 people that maybe interacted with this tweet. It did come into my radar as well. I saw it in my feeds and etc. But it's kind of funny to think that it's like the setting the world on fire is more of like a bubble kind of situation. Like it set our bubble on fire, right? Like our bubble of like the 2,000 people that saw this and interacted with this in some way. I mean, 2,000 that interacted, potentially way more that saw it, but regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that many people. It's really irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a fun discussion to be had. Now, here's the thing. I already know, because I know you pretty well. I already know what opinion you're going to have of this. And I also know, like, kind of like a lot of the general takes about it. I don't fully disagree with this guy. And here's my, like, potentially controversial thing to say, because I think to me it's all about the transparency and the upfrontness about it. So, I would hate to read a review of a game expecting to find out whether the game is good or not, whether, it's something worth buying, whether it's something that, it's matches my tastes, and believe the review. And it turns out that whoever reviewed it only played 10 minutes of it, only got through only got through like 25% of the game or something like that. That's not what I want. But at the same time, if somebody writes a review and says straight up, hey, first paragraph, I only played 25% of this game for this reason, and here's my take on the first 25% of this game. I think that's fair. Because I think somebody can still be entitled to have an opinion even if they have not completed something, especially with games where the commitment can be really long. So my point being, if a game is 100 hours long and I played it for 20 hours and I think it's pure garbage, I don't think my opinion is invalid because I didn't beat the game, right? So that's kind of my take on it. Is like I feel like there's some gray here. I feel like, there's gonna be a lot of black and white shouting about the situation, but I feel like there's some gray that I kind of understand where he's coming from.
So yeah, I mean, there's I can sort of see where he's coming from because like I have some evidence to sort of back him and stuff like that. Like I've reviewed games and stuff for level one gaming, and I have had actual. I actually kind of sort of knew what the score was going to be halfway into beating the game, and the second half of the game didn't change it for me. It's really weird because like if when I think about the idea that like let's say The Last of Us 2 is 40 hours, and let's just say I only beat the first 20 hours leading up to the moment where we started like flashbacking to Abby or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like I would have a completely different take on the game. I would just assume, oh, okay, we're just gonna like get back to this, and then the game will wrap up, and that's a third act kind of thing. I don't know. It just kind of seems really weird that you could have you could have a completely different perspective on the game because another character can just get fleshed out in the second half of the game, or something narrative wise can change. So that being said, like I think me personally, like I don't think. I think in the sense that you don't have to beat the game is in the sense of you don't have to have a platinum it. You don't need to have a completionist run in order to have a review of it. I think you just need to like beat the story, beat the campaign or something like that. Just sort of, you know, do enough due diligence. If it's an open world game, you can mainline it and not and just sort of sprinkle in some side quests and don't clear and check the entire map off, and you don't need to do all that. I don't think that's really like necessary for a review. You're just sort of just reviewing
Yeah.
the product and stuff like that. So I think as a general term, in general term, I think you should try to have a finished game,
Mm-hmm.
whatever definition that means per game basis, to review a game, because you're reviewing the wholeness and stuff like that. It's not like I'm gonna watch like half of Titanic and then it's a 3 hour movie and then just say, oh, okay, that's I'm gonna review this movie based off of like an hour and a half of what I've seen.
No, I saw that comparison be made, and I understand where that's coming from. Because that when we think about that with the movie, that would be ridiculous, right? But let me throw another comparison in there. What if a show has 2 seasons and you review the first season, right? So like that's totally acceptable, right? Even though a show in its entirety is a better comparison to the length of a typical AAA game in a lot of ways. So I feel like I guess it's all about terminology at the end of the day. I think it was Lucy O'Brien, some of the stuff that she was talking about it that are responding to it, I thought was very interesting. And she said, you should name it a review in progress, if that's the case, was something that she said. And she also said, I have this tweet pulled up here. I worry that generalizations like this encourage a perception of half-assed measures, even though I'm sure there's more nuance in what you're saying. Um, so it's I feel like there is a lot of nuance. I feel like generally, a professional website that is trying to professionally review video games should pursue a situation where all of their reviewers have enough time to actually finish the games that they're reviewing, and so that they are able to share a perspective on the game as a whole, because that is a better review for the most part. You know, a review that it has all the data to base things off of, as opposed to only part of the data. But the only point I'm trying to make is that I don't think a commentary, like a partial commentary on something that is typically as long as a game can be, is useless, or is like shouldn't exist, right? Um, and going even with your example of The Last of Us, you came in while we were playing The Last of Us last year, and you shared impressions, right? Which is a different word than review, but you shared impressions week by week as you went through the game. And I don't think those impressions were invalid. I feel like those impressions were just as valid, even though your overall opinion of the game changed by the time you finished it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
you're right. I think as far as like review and progress impressions and stuff like that, like there are many times where like I even see like Game Explain had an embargo of a review that was due, but what they ended up doing was because they were like trying to crunch or whatever, they didn't want to like crunch too much. What they did was they changed it from review to review in progress, so that way they can get something out in time. And also it's
yeah.
also a situation where like the publishers are like really they're kind of bad because they kind of sort of give the codes out too close to like the deadline or whatever. Instead of giving these publications like a week to review a game, they can give them 2 weeks, which I've seen people talk about. It's like, oh, we don't want to risk leaks or whatever, or that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just think that in general, I mean, you can just sort of you know do what you. I think it's up to like the writers to do what they need to do as far as like owning up to it, as far as being transparent and stuff like that.
Yeah. The transparency is the most important part, which I think we can both agree on, right? Like whether you call it out on the first paragraph, whether you hold off on scoring the game, which I think that's important actually, especially for an outlet where that score is going to go on Metacritic and stuff like that. Um, IGN has done it before where they'll split a review in parts. I've seen that too. I think it's very interesting when they do that. So I think there are ways to like navigate this, but the most important thing is that the writer is transparent to the audience, right? I think what the audience is concerned about and what most of the vitriol would be in regards to this guy's comment is this idea of somebody, playing 20% of a game, writing a review, scoring the game, and then not even making it clear how much they played of it, right? So, or, leading to with the outcome of the full story or the all the systems and stuff like that. So, fair enough.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bit here. Second story is regarding Nintendo's financial results. So, in case you guys don't know, April 30th is the end, or yeah, no, March 31st. Here we go. March 31st is the end of the fiscal year for Nintendo, as well as other companies. And finally, here in May, they're finally giving us the financial like investor call. Here's the results, and here's like the tallies of all the new games and software and projections of what we're expecting to do for the next fiscal year. And so here is the headline: Nintendo reports record full year profits as Switch nears 85 million units sold. And despite forecasting decline, the platform holders expects the console to beat the Wii's 101 million lifetime sales this year. It says here, and this comes from Games Industry. GamesIndustry.biz, written by James Batchelor. It says here, Nintendo enjoyed its most profitable year to date, thanks to COVID 19's boost and the ongoing success of both the Switch and Animal Crossing New Horizons. The platform holder released its financial results, which showed operating profits rose 82% year on year to about roughly $5.9 billion. Ordinary profit was up 88% to $6.2 billion. The previous high was the gross of $4.6 billion reported in March of 2019. And let me just sort of skip around in this article. It says here that Nintendo sold 28 million Switches during the last year, and which is up 37% from the previous fiscal year. And so now the total console lifetime sales is 84.59 million units. Of those sales, of the 28 million sales, 14.7 million were Switch Lites. And yeah, I believe there was an update to like the rankings and stuff like that. But it says here that Nintendo highlighted 5 key titles, which was led by Animal Crossing: New Horizons. The game shifted 20.9 million units during the last fiscal year, bringing the total sales up to 32.6 million. Good for second place. Behind Mario Kart 8's Deluxe at 35.4 million. And it says here that Super Mario 3D All Stars sold 9 million units, and which was thanks to Nintendo's limited lifespan of just 6 months. And also, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury started off strong at 5.6 million units, with 4 million sold through to consumers in the first 6 weeks. And I believe that is more than the total lifetime sales that Super Mario 3D World sold for the Wii U. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can let me stop you there for a second? So I added another article under this bullet point on the doc, if you want to pull it up, just because I want to bring up some things from this. So Imran Khan, who writes for Fanbyte Media, also covered the story, and he had some interesting, things and context that he put together. And I just kind of wanted to go through some of the stuff as well. So he said, to put that in some context, as far as the sales of the Switch, 85 million units. That means the Switch has outpaced both the Wii and the PlayStation 4 in the same time frame aligned to their launches.
Huh.
It also likely means, assuming Nintendo hits their bare minimum Switch goal this year, that the system will be the fastest selling console to hit 100 million units. They later on they go through, he goes through all the games, and there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Like Animal Crossing: New Horizons is on track to sell more units than all of the other Animal Crossing games put together. It hasn't quite hit that yet, but it is really close and is about to hit that, and will definitely will this year. Super Mario 3D All Stars sold 9 million units in that time frame, very short time frame, which means that game is selling roughly almost 50,000 copies a day during the time frame that it was available to sell. It talks about the sales for 3D World plus Bowser Fury, which at this point, it is just a little bit short of the Wii U one. But the fact that that's just 2 months of sales, or even less, actually, that's still pretty insane. I mean, by this point, the data is from March 31st. So by this point, this game is definitely outsold the Wii U one. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold 10 million copies just in 1 year, and it has a lifetime of 35 million. So just 1 year of that game is more than what any game sold on the Wii U in total. And only a few games on the 3DS have surpassed the number of the yearly sales of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Pikmin 3 also sold more than any other game in the franchise. Super Mario Party sold super well with an additional, 4.7 million units during the pandemic. Ring Fit Adventure, this is a fun one. Sold a lifetime total of 10 million units, making it the best selling new IP RPG of this generation. The best selling new RPG of the generation is Ring Fit Adventure. That sentence is insane. And Super Smash Brothers Ultimate in the fiscal year that we were just talking about sold 5 million units, and that is more than Street Fighter V has sold combined across all of its different versions and permutations in the 5 years that it's been in the market.
Jeez.
So, conclusion here being Nintendo is just killing it this generation. It's insane. The sales numbers that they're getting for these games are crazy.
Yeah. I believe there are now 11 games that have sold over 10 million units. And
Yeah.
that means that in order to get into the top 10, you need to be this high to ride, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
10 million units, that's a really high,
it's a
it
very
almost seems low
yeah.
when you look at like 35 million for Mario Kart and 32 for Animal Crossing, but a lot of games, a lot of big AAA games did not hit 10 million units in sales. That's a hard number to hit.
Yeah. I think it's only reserved for like Call of Duty and like the EA Sports games or whatever. That's about it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's like, those it's for the juggernauts, right?
yeah, exactly. And Nintendo's just got them in spades.
Yeah, like Like, who would have thought that Ring Fit Adventure, it would sell, basically, Call of Duty numbers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
All right.
pretty crazy.
Let's go ahead and move on here to the next story on the list. It says here Nintendo is making a new IP. So it says here Nintendo's next Switch game will let you develop your own games. Game Builder Garage comes to the Nintendo Switch on June 11th. And it says here Nintendo will release Game Builder Garage, a new game that will let players make their own games. The company announced on Wednesday, like WarioWare DIY, Super Mario Maker, and Nintendo Labo before it. Nintendo's next foray into do it yourself game development will give amateur game makers a colorful, easy to understand set of visual tools to program their own software. Game Builder Garage will teach players how to create their own game through fun guided lessons that cover the basics of visual game programming. Nintendo said in a news release, no prior experience is necessary. Players will interact with creatures called Nodon to build their games, examples of which can be seen in the trailer. And it says here that Game Builder Garage will feature a lesson mode where players can learn the basics of, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It says here Nintendo will release the game in June for $30. And so, yeah, there's some screenshots that I'll be running through while you talk. Dan, as a game
Yeah,
developer, what's your first thoughts on this?
you can also let the trailer play out, although that sometimes makes us get I don't know, like demonetized or whatever. Not even demonetized, but they'll take down the
Copyright
video
claims.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, this is cool, and it seems to me like there's this trend for game developing games being out and big right now, which is really cool. Obviously, we had RPG Maker back in the day, and Game Maker has been around for a long time, and I used a software called Scratch when I was a kid as well in school, and there's always been these types of software. But it's cool to see that it's not going away, and if anything, it seems like it's getting bigger. It's getting more accessible. Obviously, we got engines like Unity and Unreal that anybody can download and start playing around and making games. I believe Game Maker is still prevalent and works in the same way. And then now you got Dreams on the Sony side, which is a very impressive game development platform on the PlayStation 4, which I hope they bring to PC eventually. We got Roblox, which we never talked about on this show because none of us really tried it, but it's also a similar kind of game making, game sharing platform that apparently the kids are all about and is really huge on the PC marketplace. And now Nintendo is going to have their own too. Now we're also going to have a game making software for Nintendo. It's cool that it's kind of like being released for cheap, $30. I feel like I almost kind of wish that this was something that they gave for free with a Nintendo Online subscription. I feel like it kind of makes sense to be another one of those, kind of similar to Tetris 99 and all of these other games that they've been releasing that way. Looking at the video, you can see there's a lot of variety in the things that you can make with this. It's not just a like Mario Maker, make your Mario levels. This allows you to make a few different types of games. I doubt that this is as powerful of a tool as Dreams is, because Dreams really does feel like a full-fledged game engine where you could theoretically create any kind of game. I get the vibe from the trailer that this is going to be more like, here's the the six types of games that you can make, and then you pick a template to start from, and then you can mess with that and make your own like art assets and stuff like that. And I'm curious to see how Nintendo is going to handle the discovery method for this, the sharing part of it, because they've been criticized in the past, especially from the way they've handled Super Mario Maker, as to having good curation and good sharing features for these things. And also with being able to create any kind of game, this allows people to do inappropriate stuff too, potentially, right? Like if they can create their own assets and draw their own sprites and etc. So we're going to see how Nintendo is going to crack down on that as well. Yeah, very, very, very cool stuff, though.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that Nintendo is like, I saw a little parody of this on YouTube where somebody was like, "How Nintendo makes games," and it's like he's like pretending to be like Nintendo in a boardroom, and they're saying, "All right, guys, we need new IP. What's your thoughts? Give me some pictures or whatever." And then he's like, "Mario in space." And they're like, "No, no, we've already done that." And I was like Mario Odyssey 2. He's like, "No, no, we've already done that." Or let's take Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, and let's just release them as a bundle. It's like, no, no, no. We'll just, how about we just release them in like 3 individual $60 games and people will pay full price. I'm like, okay, cool, cool. But we need new IP. Come on, like, and then everyone's pitching games and sequels and stuff like that. And he's like, oh my god, like, come on, we need something new. And then
You know,
the executives like say, all right, you know what? We're just gonna make the fans make their own new IP.
that's fun. That's a funny one. Dude, I'm very curious to see how Nintendo is going to handle this. The other thing I was thinking about is like, are you going to be able to go in and make your own like Zelda clone on this, or your own Zelda game of some kind, or are they going to take that down? I would hope they don't, but knowing Nintendo, you never fucking know. Um, but then the other thing too with Nintendo is like, the fans have these expectations of what they want from Nintendo, right? And sometimes they respond to the expectations. More often than not, they don't. And then we get disappointed. And I've been burned many times as a Nintendo fan, being hyped for something that then I wouldn't get over and over again until honestly I've kind of let go a few years ago. Which is why I'm not, constantly bringing up things like Metroid Prime 4 anymore and etc. Because I'm like, you know what? It will come out when it comes out. I'm not even anticipating it anymore. But there is something interesting though that I want to talk about for a minute, which is the whole Nintendo doesn't make new IP narrative, which I feel like I've been hearing that a lot ever since the Wii days. People have really criticized Nintendo for rehashing a lot of the same IP over and over again and not making new IP. And the truth is that that's such a wrong statement because Nintendo is between the big three, I feel like they're one of the companies that is the best at making new IP and making it successful. However, the new IP that they make are not the kinds of things that the Nintendo fans that keep asking for new IP would necessarily expect. Here's a few recent examples. On the Wii U generation, Splatoon. Splatoon was a huge hit, is still a huge hit. It's a franchise that's now going into its third title in a time span of like 6 years or 6 or 7 years. And it's been this, worldwide sensation in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
It's like an esports game and all that stuff, and it's a big hit. It sold a lot of copies, right? Even though it started on the Wii U, which was a failed console. Then you look at things like, the Wii Sports franchise on the Wii. Like that was the biggest game at that time frame, and that was a new IP. That was not an existing IP. You look at now, Ring Fit Adventure. We're just talking about how that is the big new IP RPG this generation. So they are constantly making new IP. It's just not necessarily the shit that people expect, right?
I think
Yeah.
Splatoon is the shit people expect. I would say I would classify it as that, but
Okay.
definitely like
Fair enough.
Labo, Ring Fit Adventure. Those are
Mm-hmm.
things that are like kind of like feel like stuff like that is very experimental, like Metopia. Like those are like a lot of
Yeah.
like their new IP tends to be like stuff that's like 3DS caliber. Like here's a small project like Box Boy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think when people ask for new IP, they're asking for like a Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild caliber new IP launch, kind of like Horizon, Zero Dawn, you know.
But
So
the funny thing is like we need to put ourselves in the minds of Nintendo a little bit because that's not how they look at the world. I feel like the way they look at it is like they look at a game like Horizon and they go like, "Oh, if we make a game like that, we already have a franchise for it, which is Zelda." You know what I mean? If we make a 3D platformer, we already have a franchise for that. It's Mario. If we're making a 2D platformer, it can be Mario, it can be Donkey Kong, right? If we're making a racing game, it's Mario Kart or it's F-Zero, even though that hasn't happened in a while.
yeah,
If we're making a 3D space shooter, that's Star Fox. So Nintendo, like Nintendo is not the kind of company that they want to, like Sony, make the same game over and over, but with a different set of characters and narrative, right? Like, which I know that, I get it. That's an oversimplification. I just mean the sense that, like, Sony makes a lot of third person action adventure, story driven 3D games, right? Like versus Nintendo is more like each game has to be a completely different idea than the other stuff. Otherwise it doesn't justify itself being a new franchise. And they like to reuse their characters a lot as well. So I feel like that's kind of where the difference comes from too, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like Nintendo probably doesn't see the need
Yeah.
to make another
Splatoon
Zelda.
came about because the mechanics didn't lend itself to Mario characters or whatever, so they had to
Yeah,
create a new
exactly.
IP. So that makes sense. Yeah. That all right. So let's go ahead and since we talked about Sony, let's go ahead and talk about some Sony news. It says here that Sony announces investment and partnership with Discord to bring the chat app to PlayStation. So Sony and Discord have announced the partnership that will integrate the latter's popular gaming-focused chat app with PlayStation's own built-in social tools. It's a big move and fairly surprising one given how recently acquisition talks were in the air. Sony appeared to have offered a better deal than Microsoft, taking an undisclosed minority stake in the company ahead of a rumored IPO. The exact nature of the partnership is not expressed in a brief announcement post. The closest we came to hearing that will actually happen is that the two companies plan to, quote, bring the Discord and PlayStation experiences closer together on console and mobile starting early next year. Which is which at least is easy enough to imagine. So yeah, let's go ahead and leave it there. So PlayStation having Discord built into the actual like PlayStation hardware, just sort of like kind of like how Twitch integration happened and stuff like that. I feel like I don't know. I just feels like it doesn't. I don't think their money needs to exchange hands for these integrations to happen. Why can't there just be a Discord app on the Switch and then the Xbox? You know what I mean? Like it should just kind of like Skype kind of thing. I don't know, but whatever. What are
For
your
the
thoughts?
for the simple reason that they're probably not just not developing it, right? Like there's probably, for whatever reason, within Discord there's no interest to develop that. They probably don't think it's worth their money or worth their time or whatever. So Sony comes in and says like, well, we'll give you money to do it. Like, all right. I feel like this opens a lot of possibilities. I feel like this is not bad news. I feel like this would be bad news if they made it exclusive to PlayStation or something like that. I hope they don't do that. But if they're giving their money to make the app and make it work, make it integrated with PlayStation, I hope Microsoft and Nintendo look at this. Nintendo will definitely not do it, but I hope Microsoft looks at this and goes like, all right, we'll do the same thing then. Like we're going to acquire a minority stake, and then can you integrate with Xbox as well? Because that's what I want to see, right? Like I would want to see more integration between things like Discord and all of the gaming platforms, not just PlayStation.
I'm just surprised that there isn't even a need for it. Like, party chat on Xbox is dope. People like it, I think. So I will say
Mm-hmm.
that the only benefit, I mean, a major benefit would be crossplay because if you're going to go online, well, Fortnite aside, because cross chat, voice chat is pretty easy. But like, I would imagine that it's always if you're gonna be like in a Discord server with somebody who doesn't also own a PlayStation, then it makes sense to have like a Discord app on all your hardware, so that way you can talk to anybody on and be platform agnostic. So you may not necessarily have like Xbox Live Party Chat as the only option depending on who you're talking to, but otherwise, generally speaking, with these walled gardens, nobody was complaining about it now, or then. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So lastly, Dan, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass the puck off to you here because you wrote an article in our doc, which is unheard of. But go for it.
Yeah, so basically, there's this thing going on between Epic and Apple. It's been happening for a while, but the actual, like I guess is the trial or the court proceedings are happening right now, which has led to a lot of stuff happening. I was looking for a roundup, couldn't find it, so I wrote my own roundup, taking information from a lot of different stuff that I will be citing here. But let me go through this. Earlier this week, court documents and reports were shared from the ongoing legal dispute between Apple and Epic Games. Since then, a variety of outlets and journalists have been scouting the information dump, looking for any interesting tidbits that could be worth sharing. This process has resulted in a variety of headlines and revealing of secrets, not just about Epic Games and Apple, but also about Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. To start, we knew Fortnite was making Epic Games a boatload of money, but now we have an idea of how much, reported Rebecca Valentine for IGN. Across all platforms, Fortnite made over $9 billion in 2018 and 2019 combined. I think it was roughly 4 million in one year and 5 million, sorry, 4 billion in one year and 5 billion in the other. For comparison's sake, we recently learned that the whole PlayStation business had a record fiscal year in 2020 with a total operating profit of a little over $3 billion. So Fortnite in a year makes more than all of PlayStation makes in a year with the
With their
with
record-setting year.
with the record year. Exactly. If you're curious about Epic's deals for getting free games on the Epic Game Store, Simon Corliss from Game Discover Company has shared a lot of that info on Twitter. Some notable examples include $1.5 million for the Batman Arkham series and $1.4 million for Subnautica being the pricier transactions, while Inside and Celeste cost $800,000 and $750,000 respectively, and World of Goo and Super Meat Boy were some of the cheaper deals at just $50,000 each. Epic also tracks how many downloads and new Epic accounts were generated with each free offering, alongside other stats. Some interesting insights include A. Subnautica generated the most new Epic accounts, followed by Batman Arkham series. B. Celeste was the most expensive game in terms of cost per new account. C. Most downloaded games are Batman Arkham, followed by Lego Batman, then Subnautica, then Metro 2033 Redux. And Simon also reported that Epic paid Take-Two $146 million in advances for PC Borderlands 3 exclusivity and recouped the minimum guarantee part in just the first 2 weeks.
Damn.
As previously stated, these documents have also brought to light some interesting details about the big three console manufacturers. To start, Stephen Totilo of Axios Gaming has spotted an interesting detail about the contracts Nintendo has made with the publisher. A clause stipulates that any Japanese developer or publishers Nintendo works with cannot be tied to organized crime groups such as the Yakuza. According to Jordan Oleman from IGN, these clauses are fairly common in Japan and are known as the Yakuza exclusion ordinances. So if you're going to make deals with Nintendo, you can't be in the Yakuza, and they have that stated in their contracts. When it comes to crossplay, many will remember Sony's initial hesitance in allowing developers to enable the functionality in its PlayStation platforms. We now have gotten some more info on those discussions through a look at an email exchange between Joe Kreiner, business development at Epic Games, and Gio Corsi, you guys might remember him, out at time he was the Sony Senior Director of Developer Relations. You can read more about this through Tom Warren's report for The Verge, but in summary, Gio Corsi stated Sony had no interest in allowing crossplay as the company saw no financial benefit in doing such. Epic's representative replied saying that they do it in a way that made Sony look like heroes. They could collaborate on a PS Plus promotion and add some kind of Sony exclusive content to Fortnite, and ended the email saying, open quote, Epic's not changing its mind on the issue, so let's just agree on it now, end quote. Epic swinging their big dick around.
God damn.
When it comes to Microsoft, we're fed a set of very interesting headlines. Andy Robinson reported for VGC that Microsoft had an internal review of The Last of Us Part 2, which stated that it set a new bar for what we should be able to achieve going into the new generation of consoles. The full review is available online for those who want to read it. Tom Warren also shared on The Verge that Microsoft had been planning to reduce its Xbox Store cut to just 12%, something that has now been announced for the Windows Store, as covered on last week's episode of this podcast. A document from January confirms that such a change is, or at least was, also intended to affect console games. On other news, and this is the final paragraph here, so bear with me, Nick Stat reported for the website Protocol that the Xbox hardware business loses money. The head of business development at Xbox, Lori Wright, had been called as a third-party witness by both Apple and Epic, and as a part of her testimony, she stated, open quote, we don't, in a response to the question about earning profits on console sales, we sell the consoles at a loss, end quote. Finally, Rebecca Valentine from IGN reported about an Xbox presentation that included information about their competitors' high-profile releases. The presentation revealed Xbox expected Breath of the Wild 2, Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, and Shin Megami Tensei 5 to be released for the Nintendo Switch between October and December of 2020, alongside No More Heroes 3 and Bravely Default 2, which we now know were pushed to 2021. So all this stuff has been coming out of the court proceedings between Epic and Apple, so much of which makes no sense why it would even have anything to do with it. But it's been like this crazy dump of information. People from IGN and other sites just keep looking through everything, listening in to testimony and all that stuff, trying to find any headline that they can get. And we're probably going to continue to see more of that next week. Lewis, what are your thoughts?
Wow, there's just so much to. There's literally so many different directions to take in and stuff like that. I feel like I don't know why, but it feels like Epic is now like this this juggernaut powerhouse that like kind of like on that like 10 cent level of just like our money is big money kind of thing like that. And it's really interesting that Epic can so like in a very cavalier manner can just sign off an email like let's just agree on it now and stuff like that. It's like because we know we'll win kind of thing. It's like it's kind of
Dude,
crazy how they know they have the leverage.
I read the email in full, and it was like it was crazy to think that that's how business. It was very I don't want to say it was not unpolite, but it was very like stern. You know what I mean? It was very rigid. Like, hey, like because you of course he was like, we're not doing this. You know, Sony doesn't see any benefit on this. And then Epic just replied with like this big email, a bullet point list of like, hey, here's everything we're gonna do for you. So we're gonna do it. You know, they affirmed it. You know, it didn't end in a question. They ended in an affirmation. So I don't know. It showed a certain level of like confidence there that I feel like I can respect, right? Like I feel like some people will look at that and not like it. I feel like I can respect it. Um, but yeah, you know, some crazy stuff. It feels like some of the stuff is coming out because um, Epic's argument is that it makes sense for console manufacturers to charge a 30% fee because they sell the consoles at a loss and all this other stuff, but that it doesn't make sense for Apple to do that in their store in comparison. Because I feel like Apple's argument, Apple's argument would have been, oh, it's the same as the consoles. Why are you complaining, right?
They sell their
So
phones at a profit.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. I
yeah.
didn't even think about that. Wow, that's insane.
Also, this is the Xbox being sold at a loss. That is the first official confirmation that the Xbox consoles are sold at a loss because we knew that about PlayStation, but now we know that for sure about Xbox as well.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like the Xbox
Yeah.
Series S is the one that's killing them the most. I would say that's probably like the case. And then, of course, the same would think with the PlayStation 5 digital edition. Also, I just gotta say that with $9 billion, you don't really have to care about how much each again, free game of the week is costing you because like that. It's kind of crazy how that still it feels like $1.5 million is pennies compared to
Yeah.
the how much money
No,
they've raked in.
I looked through the whole table and like you can see pretty much there like how much all of the free games cost for that time frame. It's like 2018 and 2019, I think. Um, or did that make sense? Yeah, I think so. But it's it's so cheap, really. Like compared to like how much money they're making. I mean, they gave everybody Insight and Celeste for free for under $1 million. You know what I mean? Like those are beloved, you know, game of the year contender games, game of the year winner in some outlets. And they were able to just give them for free for paying them under $1 million. And yet, when you divide, like I said, you know, Celeste was the most expensive per new account, which is like if you get the money they spent and you divide by the accounts that they got, that's what I meant by that. Like that one turned out being the one where the new user, because they had on the table that I was looking at is like a spreadsheet. They basically took these deals and divided by the amount of new accounts to figure out how much any new user cost Epic to get a new user on the Epic Game Store. And it's different for every game because for some games, they spent a little bit of money and they got a shit ton of new users. So it's like, oh, users are worth like 5 cents for in that situation. But then with like Celeste, I think with Celeste, it was something like each new user cost like $10 or something because they didn't really get a lot of new users. Surprised that Subnautica apparently is like the biggest one, actually. There's the
Yeah,
Batman Arkham as well, but that's a lot of games. So that makes sense because they're probably adding up all the different games. But yeah, with Subnautica, I didn't know that was that big.
and yeah, Subnautica is not exactly one of those like S tier games that you would think to brings the hype. I will say like Subnautica was one of the very first free games. Like when Epic first started, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
like week 5 or like it was very early on. I do remember that being like because like my Epic games, the list of games that I owned on my Epic launcher was very low, and also it's I'm surprised like in this roundup you didn't have like GTA 5 numbers because I know with GTA 5 it crashed the Epic Game Store because of how many people were trying to download that game. So
I feel like that one wasn't on the list that I was looking at, so
it
I
might
don't
have
know
been
if
the
it was something with the
cutoff.
timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was 2020, so yeah, it might have probably been a cutoff situation. But also shout out
It's
to Borderlands 3 for making that money.
yeah, right. I can't believe like that they got a game. I mean, granted, but like, can you imagine that they got a game like Super Meat Boy for 50K? You know what I mean? Like, um, that they were that. But the truth is like a game like Super Meat Boy, nobody's buying that, right? So like, to them, they're like, yeah, sure, I'll take 50K. Like their indie devs and stuff. It's hard to it's a grind to make money as an indie dev. So I don't begrudge them for it, but it's crazy, man. Um, I feel like some of those indie devs now need to look at these lists. I hope they're looking at these lists and being like, huh. So you guys gave $1 million to Subnautica and you gave us like 50,000. And I hope that they're going to get better at negotiating future deals. That's
Uh,
that's one of the positive things that I hope comes out of this.
no, I think a worse one would have been like you gave Celeste 800,000 but gave us 50 because they're similar
Yeah.
like flat wall jumping platformers.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's I didn't even think about that.
I'm Which, by the way, I'm surprised all this stuff is just coming out and that they're just cool with it. I don't know if they are cool with it, but it comes across like it's
Dirty
just
laundry.
yeah,
Yeah, it
like
feels
it's
like
all just out there.
yeah. I like. I wonder. I mean, I guess it makes sense for Microsoft to do an internal review of The Last of Us. By the way, I think it's weird. I mean, it makes sense to keep tabs on your competition, but I'm just surprised that they would want to do like their own like little post mortem on your competitor's game. It's like, all right, let me buy this game and let's play it and let's see what we can like learn from it.
Dude, there's like a full review on it that's like as long as website reviews and stuff. So it makes me wonder. I think they probably do a party PlayStation release, I would guess.
Hmm.
And use the findings and the information to base off decisions for their own other games. If they do the 12%, by the way, the 12% rate for console games, that will be pretty big news as well. Like that will be such a huge incentive for developers to want to make their games run on Xbox before they make them run on anything else and focus on that platform. Um, and it's also interesting to think of like where Microsoft expected Nintendo games to be coming out. I wonder if they had information or they just guessed it.
Hmm.
Because I think both are equally possible.
Yeah, I
Um,
also like that it's counting out perfectly. Breath of the Wild 2, Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, Shin Megami Tensei
oh, you're
5.
right. You're right.
It's like, oh, it's beautiful. I feel like you subconsciously like wrote it that way in that order.
I didn't even realize it.
But yeah, I feel like that's a topic of the show that we gotta. Yeah, we got too much to go, so let's just go ahead and keep it pushing. We're already an hour and a half in.
All right.
Let's go ahead and hit up the extra news here. So number one, Sony has registered a trademark for Sunset Overdrive IP is owned by first-party studio Insomniac Games, which is originally developed as an Xbox exclusive and published by Microsoft. So number two, Sony will reportedly start production on a PlayStation 5 hardware redesign in 2022, featured a quote new semi-customized 6 nanometer CPU from AMD. Number three, Konami has stated its interest to reinvest in console gaming, but it won't be at this year's E3 due to not having much to show yet. Number four, the director of Witcher 3 resigned after he was accused of bullying colleagues. Number five, the information published a report noting that John Justice, VP of Head Product at Google Stadia, has moved on from Google. Number six, EA has confirmed that the Series X can run the Mass Effect Legendary Edition at 120 frames per second, while the PS5 will run the games at 60. Number seven, a software engineer job listing indicates that a new Fable game is being developed with a Forza engine. Number eight, PlayStation has patented an Uber-style real-time help service with users able to call in expert players to guide them through challenging game sequences. Number nine, a pair of paid skin packs has been released for Doom Eternal despite pre-launch assurances that the game wouldn't include microtransactions. Number 10, Terry Crews has demanded the localization of Mother 3 on social media. And finally, number 11, Xbox now has almost 100 games benefiting from its FPS boost feature, which allows older titles to run at up to 120 FPS on the new console. So yeah, that's a lot of extra news. There's a lot to react to. I'll let you go first.
Yeah. All right. So let me go down this list here. So number one, potentially Sunset Overdrive coming back. I know a lot of people love that game. It's kind of a cult hit. I don't think it's sold, gangbusters, but pretty much everybody that's played that game loves it. And I don't know if Insomniac has time for it, honestly. I mean, this could just be PlayStation registering the trademark so that they have the IP. I have a feeling we'll see the not a new game, but the same game that came out on the Xbox One in some kind of remastered edition on the PS5 at some point later down the road. And I was surprised to see this because I thought Microsoft owned the IP, but apparently they didn't. Which I think that's a mistake on Microsoft there, not being able to, what is it called, like to keep the IP in the house
Yes.
basically, and leave it with the studio instead. Number two, the PS5 redesign. At first, like a PS5 Pro is coming soon, but it seems like this is more like
A PS5
not a
Slim,
P.
I would say.
Yeah, like not necessarily a PS5 Pro situation. I actually think it has more to do with the shortages that they've experienced, so that they have like a different hardware SKU that they can do, that will not be affected by the same shortages that are affecting the main SKU.
Okay.
Um, Let me see what else. Number three, I got nothing there. Number four, I got nothing there. Five, yep, Google Stadia seems to be in trouble still.
I just gotta say, with
Number
regards to Stadia, it seems I've been seeing a story about like apparently people are saying that Google Stadia is essentially dead now. I've been seeing a lot of like that on my timeline, my feeds. So
mhm.
apparently, I don't know. Somebody was asked, "Is Google Stadia still a thing or whatever?" And I forgot what their
Hmm.
answer was or whatever. But it's interesting. I think that it's worth noting that we talked about how like they closed all of first-party Google Stadia developments already. So
Yeah,
yeah, another nail in the
yeah.
coffin.
Number six, it's interesting that the Mass Effect thing will run better. Disclaimer: I work at EA, but I don't know anything about this game. Will work better on the Series X than in the PS5, and it makes me think about how Mass Effect was originally developed as an Xbox exclusive and
On the
later ported
360,
to
yeah.
PlayStation. So, wonder if that has something to do with it. Maybe the game is just better set up to run on
It's back.
Xbox hardware.
It's backwards compatible, so maybe that's probably helping or whatever. But
Yeah.
also, the
Um,
Series X is the most powerful console in the world right now. So, I believe there was a situation where like the Series X has more like sliders for like how to performance mode and like quality mode or whatever. There's more modes in like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So than the PS5. So there's something to be said.
there's more resolution options too, so there could be something to do with that. Maybe they're 1440p,
Hmm.
but at that frame rate. But I don't know. So don't please. I don't know anything about this game. So don't quote me on anything. The only other thing I'm going to comment on here is the PlayStation story. So that seems very interesting. It makes me think of there used to be like a Nintendo helpline back in the day. I never made use of that. I mean, I only came to the U.S. when that was no longer a thing, and either way, I'm probably too young for it anyway. But it's kind of cool that we might see some new version of that coming from PlayStation side. Although it is just a patent, so it might not be anything. We talked about many patents before; they have not come to fruition yet, so you never know.
Question: was Konami part of the original list of like partners when Digital E3 got announced? Because it feels like they were part of like the talking points and stuff
I
like
think
that.
they were. I think they were because I think I remember us being like, "What the hell is Konami doing there?"
So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
it's
they're pulling
interesting.
off. Yeah,
It's interesting that we're like psych. uh, and I like how like I saw their Twitter statement, by the way. They're trying to be super political and it's like we believe in the ESA and everything like that and blah. We know
yeah.
that they're going to be successful this year and stuff like that. And it's like you got to like really like outwardly forward publicly face and say give them like the nod and stuff like that. And I think it's really funny. Uh, yeah.
Konami hasn't really done anything of consequence in a while. So as far as I know, So it could be that they really just didn't have anything to show, and it could even be that they come to a mutual understanding that they shouldn't be there, between them and the ESA. I don't know.
Either that,
I
or
can't
maybe
think of how.
maybe Konami's really is planning on coming back in full force and stuff like that, but they don't have their ducks in a row. Like next thing you know, we're gonna get it like a
Yeah,
new Castlevania, a new Metal Slug, or a new
Metal Gear.
MGS6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can always dream. All right, all right. We're pushing an hour 40, and yet we're gonna be going at the topic of the show.
Let's do it.
It's time for topic of the show. So I gotta say that it's episode 69, so we had to make it sexy. We gotta. I was thinking of like a lot of different topics we can do. I was thinking about like talking about sex in games and stuff like that, and like examples and stuff. But it really wasn't. It really wasn't a situation where I didn't think it was going to be funny. So what is going to be funny is if we talk about video game waifus and video game daddies, which is even more hilarious. And because here at Ready Press Play, we are equal opportunity objectifiers of sexes. So
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
we're going to do.
No female objectification here without male objectification. We are not sexist. We do it right, and I like that. So obviously, this is all in good fun. We're just fucking around, talking about the video game characters that we find hot. What are the standards for this, Louis? Do the daddies need to be a dad necessarily, or is it more about the conceptual, sexy?
Yeah, like a sexy
Daddy
dream
character.
daddy. There was a game on Steam called Dream Daddy. I don't know if you
Yes,
know about that. So, and
I
you're like dating all
do.
these dads and stuff like that.
In fact, let me tell you a little anecdote about that one is that, I never played that game. Leah never played that game. But Leah found online a poster where it's a design of Kratos in the art style of Dream Daddy. And he's like all sexy and stuff. And it says, like it's like Kratos Dream Daddy or something. And she was like, I want that. And I was like, no, we're not buying that. We're not gonna have that in the house. And she bought it anyway, and she framed it, and we haven't hung it up yet, but we're gonna.
Yeah. So pretty much, I would say for me, daddy's gotta have muscles or something going for them. Waifus, they gotta have the goods. And also, separate side note, since we're going to be objectifying both men and women, we're not even going to do that disclaimer. The disclaimer that people always say, oh, you know.
Yeah, no, we're good
don't
here.
have to
We're
do
good
that.
here. People know. Our audience knows that
Yeah.
we're just playing around, and it's about celebrating sexy characters in our video games and
Okay.
being weird
So,
because it's a special episode.
with that being said, we are going to reveal the top 10 video game waifus and top 10 video game daddies. And
There we go.
Dan and I each brought 5 of each gender, so that way we'll have 10 and 10 when it's all said and done. So
All right,
I'll go
Louis,
ahead.
just to confirm, do you have my video?
Of?
Like, do you have my
yeah.
video in the OBS? Is everything working fine? Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start things off here with let's go with ladies first here. Let's go with waifus. I'll do one and one. I'll do one waifu and one daddy. All right. So
Okay.
for the waifus at number 5, or for my number 5, I got Bayonetta, which is quite an obvious
nice.
pick. All right. She is like she thick. She flaunts her sexuality in her games and stuff like that. Like she's quite the character if you think about it. She's badass. She's got lips. She's with her snazzy remarks and stuff like that. She's a badass. She can kick anyone's ass, and she really messed up the Smash Wii U, Smash 4 meta. And I think that it's yeah.
I remember there was like that tournament where like everybody was just playing Bayonetta and the audience was annoyed and started booing people and stuff.
Yes,
and yeah, like
that's the one.
I don't know much about her as a character, but I have heard women talk about how they like her positive representation of sexuality, because like she's like a strong despite being a sexualized character, she's also like a strong character and has like a strong personality and stuff. So hopefully that's true. I
Yeah,
don't know too much about it.
she owns her sexuality and stuff like that, but it's not like the thing. It's more of like, I guess they're trying to go with like the female empowerment thing or whatever. But
Yeah,
she
exactly.
really is more of an ass kicker than she is a sexual being in her games and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wanted to start off the list strong with Bayonetta, and
That's a good one.
my number five pick for video game daddies, and I didn't even know about this one. This is somebody like I was just Google searching like
Oh
whatever,
my god.
and then I came across of all things the professor from Pokemon Go. His name is Professor Willow, and
Oh really?
this article
I've
from
seen this.
BuzzFeed calls him Professor Daddy, and
Oh, that's
and
hilarious.
it says here, and you can see it on my screen if you're looking at my Discord or whatever. But it says here, Professor Willow from Pokemon Go, and then these are like fan-made mock-ups. Where it says he's got a muscle shirt that says "Daddy as fuck" or "Daddy AF," and then he's got like this like chiseled dad bod with some glasses on. And Pikachu's face looks derpy, by the way, in the background. So I just figured, you know what? I will say like a Pokemon professor probably deserves to be on this list. I would have probably chosen the main line, but because I saw this sexy ass picture, then I'll go ahead and put him here at my number five ranked video game daddies.
All right, sounds good. I will say I don't know. I just realized I don't know if you're taking that into account, but I'm sticking mostly to characters that I have as like either a personal attachment to or am a fan of the franchise or whatever. For my picks, I don't know if you're necessarily doing that, since it comes across like you're just kind of Google stuff and whatnot. Um, but so I may have things that are more like deep cuts, even though this feels like a deep cut to me.
Okay.
uh, but all right, so let's start easy here. So I wanna give a shout out. I'm gonna pick an easy one that you might have picked. I'm gonna go with the classic waifu, the classic hot empowered female character in video games, which is Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. I feel like most gamers would agree with that. I feel like for a lot of gamers or age, Lara Croft was our first crush in a lot of ways in video games. She's now in Fortnite. She's still relevant. There's still new games coming out or that recently came out that are in development. Obviously, we got the Angelina Jolie Lara Croft in the movies that I just saw you pull up, which Angelina Jolie, by the way, one of the prettiest women alive, in my opinion. And I used to have a huge crush on her, like celebrity crush on her when I was younger as well. And I don't know, just a solid character. And I also like how Lara Croft's design has evolved throughout the years, actually, to make her look more realistic, more
Yeah.
like a real person, right?
Yeah. A
Like,
little less of this, a little more of that.
yeah, and like some could look at it and think that she was nerfed in a way, but I don't look at it that way. Actually, I think that because the people
Look,
that say
oh
that
yeah,
are
look at this. Oh, look at those. That's too unrealistic. The waist is way too small in this right here that I
yeah,
pulled up.
I know. So they just kind of made her more realistic, and I'm okay with that. And the funny thing too is, with games, everything that's rendered in games for the most part is made out of triangles, right? Like graphics cards operate with triangles. That's why with game engines, a lot of times they talk about, like triangle counts and stuff like that.
Polygon count or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but it's specifically triangles. Like all the polygons, they're based off of triangles put together, making the polygons. And when you look at a modern game, you don't real that's not as obvious. But when you look at the original Lara Croft from the original Tomb Raider, and you look at her chest, it's pretty clear that everything's made out of triangles.
yeah. Yeah.
And I always think that's an interesting example when I'm like, hey, did you know that games are made of triangles? And then I show them that image.
You know, what's kind of interesting is like, I wasn't there like a situation where like somebody had like a Game Shark or whatever, and they found a code that could like make Lara Croft on the PS1 like naked or something like that, or just her boobs just show and stuff like that. I think that was.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that was like
I
an
feel like I
urban.
might have heard
I
that, but
I
I'm
don't
not
know if that was
sure.
true, and it feels like it could be like an urban legend kind of thing, where it's like, oh, somebody said that, but never actually happened. So, I don't know. That's just kind of funny. I think that yeah, Lara Croft and majority of her iterations from different actresses, from Alicia Vikander to Angelina Jolie to all like her rebooted like post 2013 self, and they're just
Hmm.
they're just beautiful women, and sexuality has been like nerfed, which is good for modern age, but people still remember sexy Lara Croft. So yeah.
All right, and then for my first daddy pick, I have this short list, and I'm kind of making choices on the fly here a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it to Geralt of Rivia from The Witcher. And I feel like that's an easy choice as well. This is pretty much the example, like, um, the way that straight men have felt about Lara Croft for a while. I think straight and bi women feel now about Geralt, especially in the Witcher TV show, played by Henry Cavill. And you can see that the show itself also sexualizes the character and shows him, if he's shirtless, pretty often and stuff, and he's hot AF. So I'll give him that. So I think that's an easy one as well.
I'm glad I told you to come with honorable mentions because both of them that you named are picks that I have in my list. So we have room.
All right.
We have room.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Sounds good. Sounds good. I
yeah.
should have started with the deep cuts then. I figured I would leave those for later to start strong. We got to start strong. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Henry Cavill, handsome AF, I would say, and also I saw the in the article for like video game daddies, they also did in fact include Geralt, and if you're looking at the screen, you can see like little hand drawn animated things and stuff like that. Yeah, so good job, internet, for doing that. So for my picks for let's go with waifus, I decided to go with a Mortal Kombat character, and I wanted to sort of like do one per franchise, so I didn't want to do like three Mortal Kombat characters for waifus, but I
Hmm.
had to decide between Katana, Melina, and Jade. And what's important about Melina and Jade is that they were really sexualized in the Mortal Kombat games. A little less so for Katana, but she was sexualized and stuff like that. But Jade and Melina were skimpier, like
Hmm.
than Katana. Not to say that she wasn't skimpy, you know what I mean? But I feel like with Katana, I picked her over the other three just because she at least has some class, and also blue's my favorite color. So, and yeah, and she looks like really like, yeah, and she really is like tends to be like very beautiful in whatever iterations that they have her in, like from like the newer games and stuff like that. So, and also I wanted to give a shout out to the actress that played Katana in the Mortal Kombat, '95. You know, she hot as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that Katana definitely earns a spot when it comes to video game waifus, pretty easily. I think from like you know the from like the she covers a lot of bases and stuff like that. She definitely got that Bayonetta vibe going on as well, as far as like just being able to own her sexuality and being dangerous at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I just want to add that it's good choice. I like your choice, and I had a Mortal Kombat character as well on my short list that I'm not going to be including so that we don't it's not too redundant. But the character I had picked actually was one that you didn't mention, was the character Sonya Blade.
Hmm.
And I'm not a huge Mortal Kombat fan, but the moments that I have played Mortal Kombat, that is the character that I had a bit of a crush on. I think she's pretty as well in a different way, and we're looking at a lot of sexualized art this episode.
All right. For my video game daddies, I'll go ahead and just bump in one of my honorable mentions because Geralt was my number four. So now my new number four is gonna be Dante from the Devil May Cry games. And I feel like,
Removing that from my short list because that was on my short list as well.
but you know what I will say, yeah. Well, I feel like they're, sexuality is pretty easy to pick up on when it comes to video game characters.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, man, what's to say? He's got a big sword. I should have had his pause in there. I should have. He's got a big
Yeah.
sword.
Sword. Dante is a cool character, and I've met girls before that had a big crush on him too, and I do think he had that kind of popularity as well. So yeah, it was one of my picks as well, and one that I was planning on bringing it up soon. So I'm glad that we're covering all bases here between me and you.
He's got like
And I'm
his facial features got that like rugged, handsome man thing going on, by the way. And also he can pull off the
yeah.
emo look as well. Like he's got that emo like rock band kind of like Simple Plan, Good Charlotte kind of vibes that I got from his hairstyle here. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go what were you saying?
Also, by far the best character to play as in Devil May Cry 5. So just laying that out there.
Okay, Dan, I
All
believe
right,
it's your
Lewis.
turn.
Yeah. My next waifu is going to be a character from League of Legends. I played that game a lot, and it has a lot of different, female characters that are pretty much all pretty, and all the male characters are buff and handsome as well. And this was a hard choice, but I'm going with Miss Fortune. This is a pirate character. She is very hot. She's often presented in a sexualized manner as well, which is true for a lot of the characters in these games. But I picked her because not just because she's a character that I find pretty and hot as well, but also because it's a character that I really enjoyed playing, and that I think it's like kind of like a fan favorite character that people enjoy playing in the game a lot as well. She's also kind of easy to pick up. It's a good character for people that are playing the game for the first time to start with. And yeah, and I just thought she deserved the spot. By the way, my list is not ranked. I'm just kind of going through them.
Okay.
I see you're ranking yours, but just figured I wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
So that's it for my next waifu character there. And my next daddy character, let me think about this for a second. I am gonna give it to Drake, Nathan Drake from Uncharted. Not sure if this would have been in your list as well. I will say that Nathan Drake is not typically a character that is shown in a sexualized manner, and it kind of bothers me to see what's his name again, the actor, Tom Holland, coming up here because I look at Tom Holland as a child. But Drake, he does have that that like hot Hollywood actor style to him, like that. I don't know how to explain it.
He looks like a
Any
Mark
other way.
Wahlberg like type of celebrity with
Yeah,
an yeah. The People
yeah,
Magazine's sexiest man alive kind of look to him.
yeah, exactly. He's good to look at. He's a good character to look at when you're playing the Uncharted games. So definitely wanted to give him a shout as
Oh my
well.
God, this is a deep fake of Tom Cruise. But yeah, yeah, I agree. I don't really. He wasn't on my short list, but nor my honorable mentions. But I actually don't disagree with the picks and stuff like that. He's got that swagger, that personality, that wit, those quippy remarks
Yeah.
that everyone loves and stuff like that. So shout out to Nathan Fillion who played Drake in a fan-made film
Oh
and stuff
yeah,
like that as well. He was perfect
he did a
casting.
really good job at it.
If he was
Yeah,
like 15 years younger, like or 20 years younger, like, and if he would have been perfect casting for a Uncharted movie.
agreed.
Okay, so my next pick here, I decided to go with the Street Fighter series, and there was a lot of hotties to pick from in the Street Fighter um, series as well. Because if you think about it, we have I forgot her name. Is it Armika? Or she was like in that leotard and her booty cheeks were showing in Street Fighter Five. And also Cammy, she's when she wins, she literally flashes her booty cheeks at the screen, like towards the player, and just sort of like turns around and like gives the peace sign kind of thing. She's got that like leotard where like it's kind of like a like butt floss, like like a G strings, like yeah. So it's really interesting that even to these modern day games and stuff like that in Street Fighter Five, she's still got those cheeks showing and stuff like that. But I decided to go with Chun Li because she is number one, the first female. Well, like I say, not the first, but definitely like the first lady of fighting female characters, and not to mention like she's been cosplayed a lot. She's iconic. She's in Fortnite. She's got sexy alts, but generally speaking, she tends to keep it classy with her like original alts and stuff like that. There's like a certain like a femininity to her, like her demeanor and her like her dress and stuff like that. And I feel like that's like like not modesty, but like what do you call it? Like just something about it is like it works. And
Yeah.
I've seen many people cosplay as Chun Li at conventions as well, and I think it's like her look is very iconic.
Hmm.
So yeah, for me, it's Chun Li. I don't know if you have anything else to say to that
Yeah,
effect.
that's a good pick, and I could have called that as well because she's you brought her up before as your favorite female character in a different episode. I think one of the DLCs that we did really early on in like one of the first episodes of Ready Press Play. And there's also the Chun Li version that was in Fortnite, which was very curvy, like almost to like an exaggerated way compared to her original design. But yeah, shout out to Chun Li.
Chun Li is so iconic that when Capcom themselves got the character model wrong in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, they had to patch it to fix it, her face.
Fair
So
enough.
my next one is going to be for video game daddies. I feel like this one is a very obvious one, but Sephiroth from the Final Fantasy VII game,
Mm.
he is definitely got above everyone else, above Cloud, above the the rest of the party. I forgot the guy, the big bulky black guy's name. I can't. I don't. Again, not haven't played any of the Final Fantasy VII games, original nor remake, but I know popular culture has given me enough about Sephiroth as far as his demeanor and how much he commands the room and is like such a badass and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
He
And
has that like, that metalhead style, that with the long hair and wearing the black and the wings and the sword and everything. And I'll give you that. I'll give you that. And you talked about you talked about Geralt having a big sword before, but nobody nobody has it bigger than Sephiroth. That's for sure.
I was
That's
about to
for
say that
sure.
next. He's like, you think Dante's got a big sword?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dante, that's right. Yeah.
yeah. And also shout out to the fact that you can play as shirtless Sephiroth in Smash Brothers. He really looks like a Chad. So yeah, that's my pick
Hmm.
there. All right, over to you, Dan.
Good stuff. So I've talked plenty of times about the game Catherine. So I just want you to write that. Now you got to make sure you write it with a C, and here's why. And I thought about the game Catherine, which I've talked about before. It's kind of like a little bit of like a cult hit that I played for the first time like 2 years ago, I think, and I really enjoyed it. But the thing with this game that makes it very appropriate to be brought up in this context is that it kind of is a game about sex alongside a lot of other things. It's a puzzle. It's half a puzzle game, half kind of like a visual novel with like anime cinematics and stuff like that. But the game ultimately is about this guy who is, he is in a relationship with a girl, but then is tempted by another girl, and then he's experienced like potentially like cheating on her and like having to deal with the decision of who he's going to end up with and etc. and the outcomes of the story while he's having these nightmares. And Catherine is the with the C is the blonde girl. She represents in the story of the game like the temptation, like he's being tempted by this girl while he's in the middle of a relationship that has gotten stale, where Catherine with a K kind of represents like the stability, and she's expecting him to propose to her and them to get married and stuff, and he's dealing with all this doubt. He doesn't feel ready for it, and he's getting tempted by this other girl. And it's impossible to play the game and I got an immediate crush on this character by the way that she's presented, by the way that she acts towards the main character and everything. And it's just one of those characters that I had to give a shout out to here.
Okay, cool. I don't have anything to add.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. And then, you know what? I'm gonna give it to Kratos from God of War. which I'm not sure if that was in your list, but come on.
I almost considered him, but I don't know. I don't feel like the reason why I didn't really consider him is because I don't think that he's been, in my opinion, I don't think he's been sexualized enough, or like
Right.
almost at all in popular culture. That's not to say that sexualized art, like fan art, doesn't exist. It's just it hasn't really
Because that
permeated.
exists for anything.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. But it hasn't permeated to me in my little
Mhm.
bubble, I guess, is what I was gonna say.
You know, he has the beautiful buff body. He has, the look. He has the style. He has the stare. Oh, I like that idea of having Jason Momoa play him as well. I bet I bet he would do a killer job with that as well.
Dad bod. Look
So
at this
yeah.
dad bod.
E-
Dad bod Kratos.
yeah. Easy pick in my opinion, and an actual dad. So
Yeah, I mean, like when I think of Kratos, like when I think of this is what I think of when I think of Kratos. Just angry and
right.
like I don't feel. I feel like in my head I can't sexualize this negative energy.
Maybe it's because I've seen the poster that Leah bought. So
Yeah, but that's why I didn't put him in my front runner. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna like discredit your pick, by the way. So yeah, all right.
fair enough.
Over to me. I'm gonna now bring in one of my honorable mentions over here to my number two spot because you took Lara Croft already. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in an actual goddess. Palutena is
Oh,
definitely one of those situations where oh my god, oh my god.
that's a weird. That's a weird image.
Yeah, so Palutena, like, I don't think I feel like you can't get any more better than that. I feel like there's something about her is like she's very like classically beautiful, but also at the same
Hmm.
time, it's like she's also has like anime iterations, like where she's got like hand drawn art style. In like promotional images, like trailers and stuff like that, and I feel like when it comes to anime, everything's fair game when it comes to sexualization. So, yeah, that's why I feel like Palutena is quite an obvious pick because you can't simp harder for. I would say yeah, you can't. It's not hard to simp over a goddess, is what I was gonna say. So, oh
Yeah.
my god,
Yeah.
I can't believe somebody made this.
Agreed.
Fame don't fame don't get mad at me.
Don't fire us.
All right, for my next pick for video game daddies. Now here's a good one. Here's a great pick here. I decided to do a Street Fighter character for daddies, and I feel like the best daddy there is for as far as male objectification goes has got to be a Guile, more so than Ryu. So
Dun,
Guile,
dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
exactly.
You can keep talking. I'm just.
He's so iconic. Like his look is very iconic. Of course, he's got those big jacked arms and stuff like that. The hair,
Hmm.
the silhouette with his hairstyle, iconic. He's got thighs, mad thighs that can do like a somersault kick. Jean Claude Van Damme. They had to get Jean Claude Van Damme to play him in his prime in the '90s, the terrible '90s Street Fighter movie as well. So I feel like with Guile, you know, people can cosplay him, and yeah, and it takes a certain like body skill, like a body type to be able to just rock like a muscle shirt. By the way, it's like not
Hmm.
anybody can pull off that look with you gotta have a certain tone, a certain body type to be able to look that part as well. So yeah, Guile, he's definitely got that. What do you call it? Like a no bullshit personality. He's definitely gets the job done. He's definitely got that thing where it's like, damn. So people can simp over him very easily. There it is.
Awesome. Yeah.
Over to
I'll,
you.
I'll I'll give you that. And the song goes with everything.
Yes, it does actually. I think that was a meme, by the way. It's like
Yeah.
the meme that song can go to anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that meme. There's so many videos on YouTube of them just picking random like scenes of movies and stuff and putting that song in it. And it just works. It
Oh,
literally works with anything.
oh my God.
All
By
right.
the way,
I
look.
Oh man.
I just sorry, whatever.
um
Sorry.
this is so it's getting difficult because now I have, I only have like two spots and I have like nine options left for waifus at least. And that I know I have a feeling. See, there's two characters that I could see. I know you're gonna pick one of them for your first one, but I'm not sure which one it is yet. Um, you know what? I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give this next spot to Samus from Metroid. Now, is that your first one pick?
Yes.
It is. Okay. All
Go
right.
for it.
All
Go
right.
for it. Go for it.
All right. Well, Samus is just, she's just the classic female character. And the interesting thing is like I don't think she was originally sexualized, by the way, because you play the original Metroid game with her just in the armor, and she's just this badass fighter. Every bounty hunter, everybody that played the game at the time didn't know she was a girl until the very end of the game.
Not exactly
But
true, but she was sort of sexualized because if you can beat the game, the original NES game for the Metroid, if you beat it under a certain time, the less clothes she has when she takes off her armor. So if you beat it at all,
oh,
she just takes
okay,
off just the helmet. And if you beat the
all
game
right.
in a certain, really the best time, one of the best times possible, then she's in a bikini. Ergo, the Zero Suit Samus alts in Smash Brothers when she's wearing the bikini.
That's a fair point. So I didn't know, or at least didn't remember about that, so I wasn't looking at it from that perspective. So yeah, unfortunately then she was sexualized from the beginning, but I just, I feel like everybody just loves her as a character. There's been some games that developed on certain parts of her personality that people don't necessarily agree with, aka like Other M. But still she's just this, badass, mostly, more um I don't know, like confident. She doesn't need to say a lot, to get her point across, bounty hunter, and she's just a very great character to experience in all the games that she's on. She's fun in Super Smash Brothers as well, and it's been around for a long time, and one of those very iconic, I would say one of the most iconic characters in gaming. Despite the fact that it's not like Metroid is one of the biggest franchises out there in terms of sales, but I still feel like Samus in the armor is a very iconic character, um, and a hot character, uh, on and off the armor, I would say. So
Yes. I was
yeah.
gonna. The reason why I put Samus as my number one pick is because, she's definitely, got that like like classic old school thing going on from like 1986 or whatever, or 85 when she was first
Hmm.
created, and so the fact that she stood the test of time, and she's definitely, even Nintendo themselves, puts her in a bikini and stuff like that in their first party games and stuff like that, and I think that it works. Again, like dangerous and hot. She's like doing her thing and looking good too while doing it. So I feel like that's really all you need. So
Now
I
I
was
got a
just
quick question for you.
let's go for it. Go for it.
Since this was your first one, do you have another honorable mention that you're gonna want to bring up instead? Okay,
Yeah.
just
Like I said, I had two honorable mentions ready to go, so I'm glad I did. I remember like Conan O'Brien made the joke whenever he was playing as Samus in like in Smash. I think had him in Smash Ultimate or Smash 4 or whatever, and he's playing it like when Conan does Let's Plays for his TV show.
uh
Whenever he was looking at the alt for Zero Suit Samus, he was like, "Oh, look, that's Birthday Suit Samus."
huh. Oh,
And
that's funny.
separate side note, I think this is her Smash 4 pose, and then this is her Smash Ultimate pose. And people were like complaining that her boobs got nerfed between games. So I don't know, whatever.
She still looks great.
So yeah, I believe you have a video game daddy to go.
All right, so I'm gonna give this one to a character from Fire Emblem Three Houses. And it's a character that wasn't even in my playthrough, but was in Leah's playthrough of the game, and I experienced it through like watching her playthrough of the game. But it's a character named Dimitri. So Dimitri is basically a prince, and but the thing that is the coolest thing about his presence in the game is that when the Fire Emblem Three Houses, spoilers, just light spoilers, has this time jump in the middle where you start with everybody in high school basically, and you're putting together your team and teaching them stuff and etc. And then an event happens, and then the game skips into the future, and Dimitri goes through the biggest transformation in that game. So like that is the path that has the biggest change from like beginning to end as far as like the his character arc, and he goes from being this like, almost like kind of like spoiled, seemingly like rich, prince kid that is nonetheless, really good looking and stuff, to becoming this badass, armored, like grumpy man that's been, fucked over by life and, and wants revenge and all these things. So it's just kind of a cool like transformation where, he goes from like, oh, like he's so cute and a nice character and stuff to damn, step on me. So uh, that's why I wanted to bring him up, especially because I wanted to have some Fire Emblem love in here. I had a female Fire Emblem character as well that I don't think I'm going to get to. So Dimitri from Fire Emblem Three Houses is another daddy.
Okay, all right. That's I've been. It's just my first time seeing him in all these Google images and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't have anything. I don't have anything negative to say. I think he's. I think anime is one of those situations where like anything can be sexualized. It's so easy. So this anime ass art style and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyways,
Fair enough.
my number one, my new number one pick, my sudden number one pick is gonna be Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh.
I feel like with this, you can't go wrong with this. You sexualize yourself. So she's like, oh my god, there's some cosplay. But yeah, so she's definitely one of those situations where, like, I believe in the Metal Gear Solid 5, you can actually partner up with her. She's a boss fight, but she can sort of turn tail and side with you. She's a badass sniper. She's a how do I put this? Like very dangerous ass character and stuff like that. Kind of like that Ariana Grande dangerous woman kind of shit. So I feel like, yeah, there's this image speaks for itself. So in case you guys don't know, for all you listeners, MGS5, just imagine a sniper, like a Lara Croft looking sniper chick with just no armor on, just a little teensy tiny bra, and that's about it. And of course, some leather pants on, of course. But yeah, that's all you need to say. That's why.
Perfect.
That's why it was my honorable mention as well, because I don't have much more to say than that. That being said, my number one pick is actually from the same franchise. My number one pick
Oh.
is gonna be. I don't know which one. I feel like it's a tie, but I wanna go with Solid Snake. But Naked Snake is also definitely up there because Big Boss is not the same as Solid Snake, but they're clones of each other, which sort of counts and stuff like that. But yeah, Snake is he's got the iconic voice. Okay, that's number one. Is like the voice will get you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a badass. He can like he's like good at close quarter combats. He's all espionage and stuff like that. He's definitely got like the best ass in Smash Wii for Brawl. They nerfed his ass in from Brawl to Smash Ultimate, so no one will ever forget that. And also, he's got a shirtless scene in Metal Gear Solid 1 where they have him all like bondage style and stuff like that, where they had him spread eagle and,
Ooh,
electrocuting him.
hi.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I guess you didn't know about that scene, huh?
Nope.
But yeah, there was a whole
No, I
torture
didn't.
scene. There was a whole torture scene that you're playing through. You gotta mash the circle button to survive it. So yeah, definitely. I would say I was like as an amalgamation. I would say both Big Boss and Solid Snake. But if you had to pick one, I would just go with Solid Snake because he's the classier one and the one that we think of. So yeah, and also that skin tight suit, man. That's good for espionage and it shows your abs and curves. And of course, he's always like sort of crawling around like a little GI Joe and stuff like that. There you
Oh
go.
yeah, you're right. That's a good
So
one. The poses.
yeah.
That's important as well. Um, all right. So to wrap up my picks, here's the thing. I have a lot left, and I have a lot that are kind of like deeper cuts and characters that he wouldn't know and stuff like that from some of the games that I've played. But I don't know if I want to do that. So I'm gonna end my final waifu in a character that I don't think is sexualized, or at least is not typically sexualized. So I'm gonna take it from like a different approach, right? We went through a lot of like hyper sexualized characters, but I would say she's definitely waifu material, and she's a character that has a lot of different iterations. And I just think it's like a strong enough note to end on, just for as it being like a big recognizable character. Very simple, just one word, Zelda.
Ah,
I would say that,
yeah.
you know, everybody that's played The Legend of Zelda, the many different iterations, has had some level of, relation with Zelda. I feel like I really like the Zelda from the more recent games. So, like the Zelda from Breath of the Wild specifically, I think she's very cute. I think I really like her relationship with Link and the way they built that, with the cutscenes and the things that you get to experience in the game. I also really like the Zelda and Skyward Sword, which I feel like doesn't get enough credit. But I feel like Skyward Sword was one of the few games that actually kind of built a romance between Link and Zelda in the Zelda universe. Um, and in different iterations, she's also a very strong character as well. In Twilight Princess, for instance, I remember when you see Zelda for the first time, and she's like, or not. I don't think it's the first time, but there's the scene with Zelda where she seems to be imposing respect and like being a warrior, in this with this army like behind her and stuff, and like she seems like she could kick your ass and etc. So I like that we have all these different versions of this character, and that it's she's I feel like she's wife worthy, despite the fact that she's not a typically sexualized character.
Yeah, because she's always covered up in all like in a dress, from head to toe and stuff like that.
Yes,
She definitely, and especially with like Breath of the Wild, her iteration, she's very nerdy and very like into studying and stuff like that. And it doesn't seem very like you know, and
I
it's not
find that
as
hot.
yeah, she's hot, but she's not like it's not like flaunting and stuff like that. It's like you almost want to like treat her like a sister in my mental headspace and stuff like that. You can't see her that way, I guess.
And here's my final daddy pick, and you're gonna hate me for this. You're gonna hate me for this. My final daddy pick, Lewis, is Big Daddy from Bioshock.
But that's not even. How do you
He has
sexual?
daddy in the
Oh my
name.
god!
That doesn't even.
It doesn't even. It does. It's like right there on the. It registers right on like right there.
You could have written Big Daddy Bioshock. So that's obviously that's a joke pick, but I just had to do it. I just had to do it. But I mean, I think everything that he could do with that hand, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Talk about penetration, man.
oh man, we sound like fucking 14-year-olds today.
That's what happens when we
But
get to
yeah,
69.
I want to bring up, a few other things here.
All right, go list them off. List them
So
off.
all
Bring
right.
it. Bring it.
Well, first, I want to say Leah sent me her top fives for this.
Okay.
Um, so for her waifus, she had Lara Croft, like us,
Mm-hmm.
Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, Diva from Fortnite. Sorry, not Fortnite. My bad. Diva from Overwatch. I love that you search Aloy and it's
Alloy.
showing like,
Metal alloy.
yeah, metal alloys. Um, all right, so we're looking at Alloy on the screen right now. I mentioned Diva from Overwatch. She also picked Widowmaker, also from Overwatch. She really likes Overwatch. And Ayla the Huntress from Skyrim. Those are 5 waifus. As far as daddies go, she had Kratos as well, Waluigi, Axel
Waluigi.
from Kingdom Hearts, Geralt of Rivia as well, and Reaper from Overwatch.
Okay.
As far as my honorable mentions go, the only guy that I had that didn't come up was actually Joel from The Last of Us.
Yeah, I saw that on there.
Um,
Or no, I saw him come up on my searches, and I'm like, nah.
and as far as waifus though, I had Tharja, who is a character from Fire Emblem Awakening. She's kind of like a fan favorite character, even though she's like a side character. I had Diva from Overwatch as well. I put in Cortana from Halo, but I felt like we haven't played enough of that to really get much more from it. Oh, I like. I only now process what you have up on the screen. I had Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy, which she's hot as hell. I only didn't bring her up because I felt like I would be a poser because I never played Final Fantasy 7.
That's why I said I never played. I put in Sephiroth, having not played it, but played him in Smash,
Yeah,
so counts.
I had Peach or Rosalina from Mario, although I would give it to Rosalina. I have a little bit of a crush on Rosalina. Chloe Frazier from Uncharted. Now she's hot. and Yennefer from The Witcher. So
Okay. All right.
that's my long list.
Oh man, we're like 2.5 hours into this.
I know you were right, dude. You were right.
All right, this is
Um,
gonna be our. Let's
I,
just go for it. Go. Let's go for it to 2:40. I believe it's your turn
I
to
can
take over
wrap
the
it up
show.
relatively quick.
All
Yeah.
right, let's go. Uh,
What are you buying?
All right, so let's go through our new releases here. First thing, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance was kind of stealth dropped. It's already out on PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. I believe this is like a remastered or a port of the original Baldur's Gate game. Then we got some new games coming out over the next week. Resident Evil Village, likely pick of the week, is coming out on May 7th for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. That is, of course, the day that episode is out. The next generation of survival horror rises in the form of Resident Evil Village, the 8th major entry in the Resident Evil series. With ultra-realistic graphics powered by the RE engine, fight for survival as danger lurks around every corner. Set a few years after the horrifying events in the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, the all-new storyline begins with Ethan Winters and his wife, Mia, living peacefully in a new location. Free from their past nightmares, just as they are building their new life together, tragedy befalls them once again. When BSAA Captain Chris Redfield attacks their home, Ethan must once again head into hell to get his kidnapping daughter back. Then we also got Hood, Outlaws, and Legends coming out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC on May 10th. Destiny 2 Season of the Splicer is coming out on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC on May 11th. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Wrath of the Druids DLC is coming out on all these platforms that I just listed before, plus Stadia on May 13th. And Monster Harvest is coming out on PC on May 13th. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for the Baldur's Gate thing here, and just making sure I didn't say anything wrong. Interplay and Wizards of the Coast have announced that the PS2 original Xbox era action RPG classic Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance is being re-released for PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch on May 7th, so day of posting. It will be available on digital storefronts only for $30. Check out the announcement launch trailer above. You can look that up if you would like.
yeah, definitely. Pick of the week is definitely gonna go to Resident Evil. I mean, that's like the big hype release. Um, I don't know when I'll buy it. I'm sure I'm gonna buy it, but I probably won't play it. I bought and only did a Let's Play of Resident Evil 7. That's how much of a bitch I am.
Lewis, I something that I was thinking that I think we should do is I think it would be cool if during the month of October, since you don't like playing horror games, if we did our streams where you are playing a horror game and I'm just watching you play it. Like we did the thing where it's like you play like Resident Evil or something like that, and I'm just like in the call, like maybe interacting with the chat if anybody's interacting and just kind of commentating and hanging out. But then I just want to watch you play those kinds of games. I just want to watch you get scared, Lewis.
We did play Phasmophobia last October. We also played
That
Left 4
is
Dead.
true.
We played Left 4 Dead, but
That
that
is
wasn't
true.
scary though. But yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I like it.
All right. So let's move on to our next segment.
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
Got our Broke Gamers Guide here, starting with the free games in the Epic Store. We got Pine free now until May 13th. And on the next week, The Lion Song is going to be free. Looking at Pine, it's an open world action adventure game set in a simulated world in which humans never reach the top of the food chain. Fight with or against a variety of species as you make your way to a new home for your human tribe. Looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Then we got some new games coming soon to Xbox Game Pass: Red Dead Online, Final Fantasy X and X-2, FIFA 21, and more. So let's go through the list. Dragon Quest Builders 2 is coming to console and PC on May 4th. FIFA 21 is coming to console and PC through EA Play on May 6th. Outlast 2 is coming to cloud, console, and PC on May 6th. Steep is coming to cloud and console on May 6th. Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster is coming to console and PC on May 13th. Just Cause 4 Reloaded is coming to cloud, console, and PC on May 13th. Psychonauts is coming to cloud, console, and PC on May 13th. that's cool. I want to play through the original Psychonauts because I'm actually kind of excited for the Psychonauts 2 coming out later in the year. Red Dead Online.
Surprised
Go
that
ahead.
Psychonauts wasn't already on there because that's first party. You know what I mean?
I thought it was already there too, but it seems like, rather than just having all the first party games out there immediately from the new studios that they bought, it seems like they're kind of trickling them out. But we'll see. Red Dead Online on cloud and console on May 13th. Remnant from the Ashes on PC on May 13th. We also got some updates going to be available for Fallout 76, Gears Tactics, Grounded, Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite?
It's a PC update, the one we talked about last week's show.
Oh, but the game's not even out yet.
No, they're talking about like, hey, by the way, it's
okay.
features. It's gonna be crossplay. The stuff that we talked about for news last week. Yeah, they're just reiterating
Fair
the
enough.
news.
Fair enough. And here are the games that are going to be leaving Xbox Game Pass as of May 15th. Alan Wake is leaving console and PC. That's a big one. Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 is leaving PC. Dungeon of the Endless is leaving cloud, console, and PC. Final Fantasy IX is leaving console and PC. Hotline Miami is leaving PC. And Plebby Quest: The Crusades is leaving PC. Interesting that Final Fantasy IX is leaving as 10 and 10-2 is going into it.
I was literally going to say that next.
Yeah. I feel like some of these companies are using a service like Xbox Game Pass to kind of advertise their games. You know what I mean? Like, let's put this game and leave it there for a few months, and then we'll take it out so that if people started playing it and they want to finish it, they need to buy it. Or maybe if they if they're interested on it, they wanted to play it, but then they didn't have a chance to, then maybe they'll buy it. You know what I mean?
And not to mention, anytime a Game Pass game leaves Game Pass, just before it leaves, it goes on sale for Game Pass members, so you get a discount, so you can buy it less than like one of my nephew. He bought like Batman, one of the Batman games for $5 because it was gonna leave. So, it works.
Makes sense. All right, since we talked about Game Pass, let's talk about PlayStation Now as well, which is getting some big additions as well. So Neo is coming to PlayStation Now, as well as Jump Force, which is like the anime fighting game that came out a few years ago. Did you ever play that one, Lewis?
I have not. I heard bad things about it, to tell you the truth, but whatever.
Really?
Yeah, I heard it wasn't that good.
And then we also got Streets of Rage 4. So all those games are going to be playable now already. If you want to go on PlayStation Now right now, they're available now.
I see what you did there.
I grabbed some random Best Buy deals that I saw. So number one, Burnout Paradise Remastered on the Switch is just $10 right now. And $10 for a Switch physical game, at that point, you're basically buying this game at cost for the packaging. You know what I mean? Like for the cartridge in the packaging, that's probably already close to being worth $10 by itself. So it's very rare that you see a Switch physical game that cheap, which is why I wanted to give it a shout out. And then there's a deal on Best Buy as well that if you pre-order Resident Evil Village right now, which is available on PS5, Xbox One, PS4, Series X, etc., you're going to get a free Steelbook case with it. So if you're going to be pre-ordering the game anyway, you might want to pre-order it or buying day one, right? You might want to do it at Best Buy.
I was just going to say it's a little bit too late to be talking about pre-ordering Resident Evil whenever it's about to, like, when this podcast drops, it's release day. But
True.
Hopefully they'll have extras in stock or whatever.
All right, Lewis, that's it.
Okay. All right. It is time to end. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Ready Press Play. Remember, you can reach the podcast at ReadyPlayNetwork.com or simply at Ready Press Play on Twitter or TikTok. I'm on Twitter at Chakalaka88 and Dan
at the Dan Lima.
So don't forget to subscribe, give us a review, tell your friends about the show and all that good stuff. See you next time.
Bye-bye.